Items are complete. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to ask Mr. Bob Cunningham to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, what we're going to start off with is turning off your phones first. Silence, please. We're going to continue with the commission comments from our January the 12th regular meeting, which was last Thursday.
Sharon, can I just make a suggestion? I don't know how the others feel about it, but normally we conduct the city business first and then do our own comments at the end. I know it's almost all this is a continuation of different meetings, but we also agreed at the end of last meeting that we would do the communication piece first when, John Aranda was making a public comment. He asked if that could be first, but for those two reasons, I was wondering if we could put commission comments after the city business. I don't know how y'all feel about that.
It doesn't matter to me because it's all going to get done, but if that's what the pleasure of the board is, we can do that.
I'm okay with that.
Me too.
Okay with that? All right, we will move that public commissioner comments to the end, at which time we will move to number 4, which is discussion and direction to staff regarding improved communication, commissioners, and that will be Commissioner Phillips and Sherman. So I defer to one of you guys to start it off.
I guess it was after our meeting at the, shortly after Hurricane or Tropical Storm Nicole that, we heard some cries from the public that communication was rather lacking from the city, and I think that was something that we had really honed in during our strategic plan and throughout our time, at least throughout my time on the commission. I thought this was something that we needed to discuss at our meetings, and one of our meetings that we had several members of the public give feedback, several members of our community that have come forward with solutions and different ways to get information out to people. So I thought that was an important topic that I thought we need to bring forward here to the commission.
Right, and I think communication has gotten better. In the 3 years that I've been sitting up here, it's not where it needs to be, but it's getting better. We've got the hurricane forums, we've got the app coming out, but we've got a really sad website, et cetera. So if we can maybe just talk about your memorandum, kind of go through each one of the topics and see kind of where we're at and where we want to be in the future.
Yes, ma'am. As the commissioner indicated, we had a lot of discussion about where we were going and what different kinds of techniques and tools we had available for that purpose. And so back in December, I laid out some options to think about. Let me give you an update on the app. The app will be launched next week. It will be kind of in a beta test mode next week. And we're going to pick out, a few handful of people to test it. Just similar to like when you open a restaurant, you don't open the doors wide open. You have a test night, a soft opening, and make sure it's all good. And then we anticipate, if everything goes well, that we could go ahead and launch in mid-February. And if I could just explain briefly, that means if you have one of these handy dandy little electronic tethers called an iPhone, you can download the app from the App Store, and then that would be the Flagler Beach app with all of the functions on it that would be listed there. And I think there was a presentation made to the commission about that.
Is that what it's called, the flag, just so people know if they want to download
Flagler
it?
Beach, the City of Flagler Beach app, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Excuse me, would you bring your microphone a little closer? It's very hard to hear you.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. All right. I hope that does better. So that's one thing. Then the town hall forums, we've had a couple of those. We plan to do more, and specifically on the flooding. There's a lot of things we need to follow up on from the hazard mitigation process, and more feedback we need from the public, more ideas that we need to, round up, have the engineers consider. So we've started that process, but we'll do more. Then I'm going to ask in a minute, at the commissioner's pleasure, to go forward with there's a new website proposal called flaglerbeach.info. It's a web address, if you will, or name place that one of our local realtors secured, and he has the rights to that flaglerbeach.info, and he can walk you through that proposal and how that would work. There was also a suggestion about us having a separate Facebook page just for the city of Flagler Beach, in addition to the police department Facebook page. And we've outlined what those costs are and how that would all work if you wanted to proceed with that. This next one, the radio interview series, thankfully doesn't have a price tag on it. That's a freebie. And with your commitment to get behind Vern Shank's radio station, which is our local radio station, it's unusual to have an FM radio station in a city this small. He said he'd be glad to do interviews and do podcasts from those anytime. And in fact, we already took advantage of that since he was back up for one of the hurricane forums. There's a podcast about that.
I have a
Yes.
question on that. Is that something you would expect the mayor and the city commissioners to drive if we're interested in doing that? Reach out to Vern, or would we coordinate with your office to?
We already have a schedule that we proposed to Vern, and the schedule starting up, unless you want to do something different or change it, is the Wednesday before every first Friday. We would rotate who from the commission would be on the interview for that radio show that day. Okay. Certainly, we could always add, but that was the suggestion, and Vern is okay with that.
Okay. I mean, I know we were, or at least I was scheduled on the hurricane hit, so.
Yeah.
We did it, William and I did.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if anybody did
I
it.
think the mayor and I did the last one before the storm knocked the station off the
Okay.
air.
Right.
Okay, okay.
Can I get a recommendation on this one? I kind of think, and Mayor, forgive me, I think, our mayor's our face of our community, and I personally think it would be something maybe our mayor, again, she's our leader here in our community. I think it would be something maybe that we have her do, and we'll have us commissioners maybe fill in if she's not available to make it. But I personally think it would be cool to have the mayor. It's our she's our elected, I don't know how others feel, but that's just my 2 cents on the matter. I know in Palm Coast, for a brief minute there, they had the Observer had something similar where Mayor Elfin kind of spoke on behalf of, the city. So I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, I'm okay with that, but the only comment that I would make is the fact that each one of us have different assignments and different things that we work on. So sometimes it's kind of helpful to.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that. Not in the sense of the mayor, but I'm not in favor of that either. We each have our own personalities, our own interests, things that we propose, and
Yeah, and we're on
I think
different,
it's important that the public won't,
yeah, and we're on different boards that, mayor doesn't know about, so.
So however I'm directed on that,
move forward with the schedule.
Yes, ma'am. We've got a schedule with Vern, and it's we have it set up with it rotating at this point. But if you have different direction, just let us know. That one's free. We can set that up as often, or if on the once a month thing as you would like. So that's that one. Then the newsletter, what we have been doing, Katie, my assistant, has been writing things, gathering information from the department heads and writing things, little paragraphs, little tidbits, updates, things like this, and sharing them with Flagler Strong, who has been putting out a newsletter to their mailing list. And because of the storms, I think the consistency of that hasn't always, happened. God bless them, they're volunteers. They do amazing things, and we appreciate them so much. But that's what we had been doing. If you wanted to do a regular hard copy newsletter, we put down some of the costs that would be associated with that. And Katie says she's quite familiar with MailChimp and how to do all that. But of course, we need the softwares and those kinds of things to do that.
That's already budgeted.
Yes.
We budgeted $35,000 for that
Yeah.
this last summer.
Yes, so that's not like,
Who does this one right here?
which one?
That says home. New news flash, workshop agenda, and those kinds of things there.
That is the city website.
That's the city website.
That's connected to the website?
Yes,
Okay, because it
you've
comes up with a
signed up
separate
as a
email.
subscriber to receive notifications.
Okay, I just want to just mention that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very useful.
Yeah, that's
for
a
anyone that
push
signs up.
notification that's
Right.
a part of our existing website.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next item is this software called Civil Space. And I think you all remember last year when we did our strategic plan, it was the first time we ever asked the citizens, well, what do you think? What are the top 10 issues to you? And the renewal for that software is coming up. And so that's just something that, you know, we would like for you to consider as another good tool for us. We might be able to help, you know, do follow-ups for the hurricane questions and some of the other the different forums that we have. Maybe you want to do a poll of the citizenry. And this software has all the ability to do that, to take that in and accumulate it and get it all wrapped up in a good format. So those are some of the things. There's a whole list down here in the wrap-up and summary. And, you know, each one of them has a price tag. Some of them, as you say, are already budgeted. Some of them are budget adds, and some of them are free. So we just try to give you a kind of a menu to pick from of things that you know, may be worth trying. And I'd like to ask at this time, if it's all right with you, for John to come forward and see what, you know, what his website thing, how that could add to the mix. We already, as Penny pointed out, and everybody knows, we already have a city website. But the comments we've heard is that it's difficult to navigate. Well, I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm just saying that that's the comments. And John had brought an idea, and I thought it was worthy of consideration. And so I'm going to have him kind of take it from here and explain how his would fit into it.
John Horan, 209 South 4th Street in Flagler Beach. And I just wanted to mention that this flaglerbeach.info site, I acquired it about 2 years ago. And I just kind of parked it because I saw a need for information. I could clearly see a couple of years ago that this was something that needed to be addressed. And but just taking care of other business matters, hotels and other things that we were working on, I really parked this. I didn't really have that opportunity to really work on it. And about 6 months ago, before I came to the December meeting, we already started all our work. And on flaglerbeach.info, I should say we started the majority of it. We knew there was a parking problem, really wanted to direct people to parking, talk about events, just provide information. And, you know, it was going to be a site that I could also work in conjunction with my business. So I came to the December meeting, and I really just heard loud and clear that we got a real communication issue. It was a real elephant in the room. And after hearing that, I just came to myself and I said, well, shoot, I should offer this to the city in a public-private partnership. You know, we've got a staffing shortage here, and, you know, I really just felt that this was a real opportunity for the public and private entity to work together. And, you know, I've got real skin in the game already. You know, I've built this out, and I've got employees that worked on it, internet people, and I think it could be something that could be beneficial to our community. Everything is right now a viable product right now. It's done except for one component, and that's the City of Flagler Beach's center link. You see, I'm going to make some changes. I want to make it a little stronger in the beginning if we work something out. The only thing that I haven't completed really in the link is the City of Flagler Beach's portion because of the cost and whether we're going to do something. And what I'd love to do is Matt Morton, the former city manager of Palm Coast, would like to speak on this for just 1 second because he's helped me with this as well, and he'd love just to share a couple of his thoughts about what we've done.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. So John asked me to kind of share with you tonight a little bit about
Matt Moore.
our process as he laid out and what we've sort of done in the last 6-8 months and how we've come about that, sort of the genesis. in the history of the ideation we went through. So I'll just say comment-wise, in my more than 25 years in local government, the number one issue I always dealt with was communication, without a doubt. And I think almost every problem we had could either be directly linked to communication, or it could be distilled down to the issue of communication. And the theme is we can never communicate enough. We need to always put our best efforts forward and continually be communicating. When I was at the Harvard Kennedy School, one of our professors, Herman Leonard, taught us that you need to know your question zero. And question zero is essentially your purpose. And if you don't know your purpose, don't bother asking the next 1 to 99, question number 1 or 99, because it's irrelevant. And so we started with our question zero. What is it we're trying to accomplish as an organization over at Palm Wave? Really, what do we want to do for the community? And our question zero through our ideation process was very simple. How do we become the trusted, preferred, and most responsive source of news and information for the residents of the city of Flagler Beach? And so that's how we set about trying to design flaglerbeach.info, and those are the core elements that we've integrated into our website. And through that process, we built it on 3 tiers that we think are important for any communication initiative, because any initiative worth doing is worth really thinking through and understanding what your bedrock is. Again, how are you going to articulate the purpose? So we realized right away it had to be adaptive. It had to be adaptive to issues. It had to be adaptive to seasons. It had to be adaptive to events and emergencies. Facebook is a big platform, but we don't all live in the Facebook vacuum, and people don't trust Facebook to be their news source. So how do we get that to be more trustworthy? More importantly, it had to be scalable. So we know we have systems in place. We know we have some methodologies and some ideas, but we have to be scalable in that and be able to be responsive. And in that responsiveness is adaptation. And we have ideas. We laid them out before you. We laid them out before your city manager. But the community is going to tell you of your community, and that was special event notifications. The beach cleanups are huge. It's a great way to reach a broad segment of people. Any festivals, any events, any competitions, how do we multi-platform that with the sole purpose of promoting the competency, the vibrancy, and the joy of living in Flagler Beach? So we've done a lot of thought strategy around that. Special achievement notifications through no fault of anyone's. I don't think we blue ribbon campaign enough over here. You guys win a lot of awards, you get grants, you have positive meetings with, I heard you talking before the meeting, Chairman, about a meeting you had with, I think, the Northeast Florida Regional Council. We should be blasting that stuff so people understand you guys are active and engaged. You're working every single day on behalf of the citizens here. And it's our fault if we don't share that enough. And then lastly, just fun and interesting facts. People like that corny, get to know, and as Florida, I think one of the challenges we've always had is if you've been here a year, you're an old-time resident, it feels like sometimes. And so people understanding the history, the whole concept of placemaking and that sense of place, and all the things we kind of know. It's kind of like a Norman Rockwell painting. When you walk into a museum and you see it on the wall, you know it's great, but everyone will tell you they have different reasons why it feels like home or why it feels better. So we can build some community around those reasons. Those reasons are strong. Those are the past history and character of Flagler Beach, and that hopefully is what's guiding, and I think it is from your comp plan and zoning code and other things. That's what's driving the community forward to the place you want it to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or I don't let you be sitting up there. So we go back to real quick to the technical piece of this, and our experience, my experience over the years in communicating. One, we like SMS, communication by opt-in, text messaging. Text messages, as you're aware, have over a 90% open rate and read rate. There's something about a text message that conveys urgency and importance versus a 20% open rate on average with email. So we're really drilling into an SMS platform. Again, I mentioned the use of a custom API to capture any relevant information we can off Twitter feeds, Flagler County Emergency Management, City of Flagler Beach, other trusted groups, whether it's FDOT, Sheriff Staley. And the idea is when you have trusted communicators that you know you can just capture their information, it's going to save a lot of time and energy and redundancy in communicating valuable information. And hopefully it's steering people to the website to be the source, right? We don't have to create everything brand new. We need to take what is good and what we can reuse in the public domain. We're going to weekly automate all those API feeds on a weekly basis on our website and send them out as an HTML newsletter to email customers. So anyone who wants to join our website via email will get those. Another thing we stumbled upon, and it came from John and I, you'll see us out in the mornings. We walk 3 or 4 times a week. We have a 4-mile route we do through Betty Steflik and down and back up the beach. And I've walked by the fishing pier under the bridge now for many months, and I see it's closed, and I wonder why it's closed. I have no idea why it's closed. And I've had real success. You put a QR code on there on a city plaque, and when I'm out, I pull out my phone, as someone mentioned, is our tether. We always have them, and you scan the QR code, and it takes you right to the specific page, and you can see why it's closed, when you expect to reopen, if there's plans. Now, that's scalable everywhere. That's scalable. I did an economic development program in the state of Washington that I wound up winning an award from Jay Inslee, the governor at the time. And it's how do you connect history, how do you connect economy, opportunity, your public spaces, your public information, because people are using their phones. And so it's just another great tool that we've come up with that we've integrated into our website. And then, of course, the basics. How do you keep our residents updated, the calendars, the basic information and things like that. And then lastly, and I don't know, this depends on a city partnership, but we had talked with William. We're not looking to be the sole proprietor of information. We're just looking to also capture information that the city already would or probably is sharing with any email sites, news sources, anyone that has, it's all PRR. We're not looking for sole proprietorship if we come to some relationship with the city on information. We're just looking for stuff in the public that anyone has access to. We just believe our platform and the energy and design we've got behind it is.
If I may, Matt, I'll just make a quick comment on this. It's a city, the way we had discussed it, was kind of like an additional layer. We still have our official city website, but this would add another layer outside of that website. So just put it that way.
So this would be in addition to our regular website?
Yes, in my mind.
We're doing it, our website, so I don't know if, again, I was here just to sort of present what we've been doing and what we've been working on. I guess that's a conversation for you guys and Mr. Horan, but I mean, that was really what I was asked to share, and then answer any questions you guys may have. I know I covered it quickly, but.
I think it's great. I mean, I'm looking at activities and, already my head is starting to churn because, it's always churning. But I mean, you could push things like the Centennial coming up.
Yes.
As well as ecotourism, which is an economic driver. I mean, in Northeast Florida Regional Council and others are looking at ecotourism as the thing that they're going to be promoting, and we're already doing that here in St. John's, I'm sorry. Going back in Flagler County and Flagler Beach. So I see some great opportunities with things like that as well. Commissioner Mealy?
I think it's going to be a great promotion for your business. I don't see what it's going to do for the city government. If we still need to have our own website, and I believe we do, you're not going to put minutes of meetings or things like that on your website.
My understanding is there's a portal to your website, but again, our goal is to capture and promulgate things in ways you guys cannot, either don't have the bandwidth or the capability under statute.
So that's a great way.
So they'll be there. The minutes will definitely be there in a link to the city's website. That's again, I'm just sharing what we've done, what we're doing, irrespective.
Okay, and I'm not being critical, Matt. I'm looking to what the people are saying, that the city's website doesn't give them enough information, or it's too hard to navigate, which I don't find it hard to navigate at all. Every time I go look for something, I can find it, but okay, other people have trouble. I see what you're doing as a good service for people who might look at, is it Palm West Realty? I always forget which real estate agency you are.
Yeah, that's not part of the website. This is a community news and information portal. And we could have put it through, John, if you want to come up and talk, we could have put it through that site, but we didn't. We chose again to try to be a news source for the community. The intention is not at all to build Palmway Realty. Is that what I brought it forward to be a community project, and that's my sole purpose. And I've got the expertise of Matt on board. We spend thousands of dollars to go forward. We want to offer the service we can push information via text messaging, via Twitter feeds, so weekly newsletters. And this is just from the perspective as, most certainly I'm an entrepreneur and been involved in so many various businesses, not just real estate. That I'm a true entrepreneur, and have handled all types of technology matters in growing companies. We've got a communication problem. And I think a private-public partnership will push it, move it quickly, and solve your problem.
So,
Wait, can I wasn't.
no, you were not finished. Go ahead.
How much staff time would you require? What would you require from the staff to?
I really think that's where we would love to help. We just need to go ahead and we planned on a Monday morning getting information updates. That's what our plan was. And then I've got one employee at my office that I was going to assign to it on top of Matt and myself and building it out. So I think we could accomplish a whole lot with one city individual being assigned to get us the information, and we can continue to build the platform.
Okay, so we need to have a staff person either, and you wrote new budget memo, no new staff people.
Well, we're hoping that we would be able to use your existing staff. That's what we were hoping for.
Like I said, in my mind, it's kind of a layer. And it's up to y'all if you want to make the investment. I think we could work out an agreement where we feed information and then they could do a lot of other cool things like QR codes. I don't think we can do QR codes. Maybe we can. I don't know. What I'm saying is all these kinds of new twists and applications and pushing the information out. It's just another way of reaching different audiences.
So who do you see on staff, current staff?
It would be either myself or Katie that would be the
So
interface.
when you then get criticized for not doing something else, right? You could say I was busy giving John and Matt the information that they wanted. And if that's what we want to do, okay.
No, I think it would be a big time commitment for somebody from the city to do this. And I don't know if we've got the staff right now
How
to do
about,
that.
as a thought, I have heard a lot of comments from the residents. They need somewhere to look. Our events page on the city website's at the bottom. And here we have someone giving an opportunity and saying, we will help, but we need a little bit of help in return. And maybe in the beginning, part of John's staff could come to our staff meetings and they could listen, and they could also gather information from the current website. This is a much more user-friendly platform. And then I have a couple technical questions for you, which might help some people here. Is this completed on WordPress?
Yes, right.
WordPress is very easy. It's very similar to Facebook. You want to change something, you open it up. It's as easy as like typing in an email. It's very copy paste. I make WordPress changes on our company website in less than 10 minutes a week. Very, very simple. It's not a time consuming. It's not even, you would not even hire a part-time person for this position. This is added on, like how Chief Downey does Facebook. This is the same type of thing. It's an added on entity, not time consuming. I think it's great. I do have a couple more questions for you. The .com of flaglerbeach.info, who would own that domain?
I would.
You would.
Mm-hmm.
With this project, my concern is lots of times when you end relationships, here we have Flagler Beach info. We're sending, our residents are trained to go to Flagler Beach info, flaglerbeach.info. And we have decided to terminate the agreement, or something's gone. We've decided it's not working. You would be taking flaglerbeach.info with you then? or would you be willing to give that domain name to the city? And the reason why I bring this up is in last year during an EDTF meeting, one of the committee members offered up for free the website domain flaglerbeachinfo.com. So we did have that in our pocket to use, and maybe then have you supply the information to that domain name as a temporary redirect until it's built on that platform of WordPress. We could do lots of copy and paste onto that. That way the city owns it.
I think the short answer, and I'll jump in, is we're not looking for any of this information to be exclusive to us or proprietary to us.
Okay.
We're saying the way we're going to promulgate it, we think is useful. We're already in that mode of doing this. What my suggestion or conversation with William was is we obviously have layers of ways of communicating that Florida statutes are going to tell us how to do. So we're not asking for any. So anything we get is public domain information, or we're going to farm that information again from Jonathan Lord or Rick Staley or FDOT or your guys' public records and information. So if anything, I think this maybe creates a template for the city if they decide in the relationship to take the work that's done and have an ideated concept that they know is going to work.
Yeah, and I've got real skin in the game, like, you're going to have skin in the game. If, let's say, for example, it didn't work, my relationship with you, I've got real money spent, to go ahead and build out the city platform with the text messaging, with the QR codes.
Right.
I like the idea about having an associate come to a staff meeting. I think that's a good idea. But in a public-private partnership, if that's what you would want, is I've got real skin in the game. I could have loss.
Oh, you would have loss.
And so that's what a public-private partnership. I've got risk, you've got risk. It's not where I'm just coming to you guys and saying, give me money and let me go. I'm already spending money. So that's my point about a public-private partnership. I'm out here spending money, willing to spend money on the city's behalf. So that's my thought, and I wouldn't want to give my site over to you. That wouldn't necessarily be my plan. But as Matt just said, it's public information, and you want to build out later. Hopefully, we're going to do a great job, and you wouldn't want to do that.
Drew, a question legally. With any other public-private partnership, is this something that could be codified to some degree in a memorandum of understanding?
We would have a contract. I mean, it's not a memorandum of understanding, it's a full-blown contract.
Okay. And in some of the concerns that the mayor had expressed here, we could probably come to some agreement with Mr. Haran as far as ensuring to some degree anyway that he's going to be around and the domain will still be usable by the city. I would think it's like any other agreement. You get together and you make some concessions and come up with something. Commissioner Camille?
Mr. Woodson, the app that we're launching, will it be redundant to this?
Yes, ma'am, there would be duplication of information, and I think that's what, John is sharing, is that I think a lot of the information is already out there, but you have different targets, different people consume the information in different ways, and so this is one more, I guess, avenue for doing that. And yes, once we launch the app, we will have push notification on it. In fact, our fire department just told me the other day that they're upgrading their technology from the old, Code Red, to a new platform that has push technology. So what we're talking about is additional tools to push the information out and reach the different target audiences, because it's kind of difficult. There's a lot of people moving around in and out, and so we just have to kind of educate people on where to get the information.
Mr. Sherman?
So I had a technical question for you guys here. So the logic that you'll have programmed on your website, will that be instantaneous feeds from all those social media networks that you mentioned? So say there's, something going on around the community, and, like last year we had that false bomb threat, and to get that information out, hey, keep the citizens away, this is what's going on, this is where all the sirens are, those Facebook posts or different things. Is that so you guys have it programmed basically where it's not like somebody's manually going in, it's the
Absolutely.
logic would just
it would be worth us doing. And then one of the things, Jane, I think I can understand your point, there's not really, shouldn't be redundancy in information. That's why you've got all these various sources. You know, we have a problem in our town. It's, people are upset about this information. And I don't really think there's redundancy. I think you want to have a great website, somebody pushing it and working for you. You talked about radio. There's so many different things that I just would say. I don't think there's an issue really with redundancy. It is that, you know, we've got all these media platforms and outlets, and this really, I don't think it would be redundant.
Commissioner Sherman, Commissioner Cooley.
Same thing.
That guy.
It's tough getting
The
old.
dark hair guy.
Same haircuts.
Well, this isn't really about the website. My comment is more about like the discussion. What I would like to do before we get super deep into what do we do with this one option is we kind of hear all the options from all the parties, and because a lot of the comments that I have are about communication in this whole thing in a nutshell, versus trying to work each individual item. I don't know if that would help or not.
I would maybe just mention one more thing before I get off here, that my heart's to serve. I like to volunteer and help the city, and I really think that we can be a benefit and really take some of the air out of the room, and that's my purpose. And I just don't want to, lose a ton of money doing it, and I'm willing to take the risk. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Phil.
In the memorandum that we have, John, it says the content for the site would all be originated from city staff with additional contract support from a local vendor like Marketing to Go, and Cindy is here right now. So would there be an additional expense from Marketing to Go for this website? I mean, we're looking at, an annual fee, but I want to make sure that there's no hidden costs anywhere.
I'm sorry. That's for William.
That one's mine. Yeah, the addition of Marketing to Go is to solve the staff bandwidth issue. Because if you have another website and a Facebook page, and what I'm saying, you'll need, somebody has to do the work. I mean, we think that we can handle the newsletter okay to our existing workload, and then of course the app. But if you want more than that, then we will need some additional support, and that's what the Marketing to Go contract would provide. And again, it would be something where they would come to regular meetings at City Hall, get the information, write the information, push it out to whatever platform in whatever way we need.
And charge for that?
Yes, ma'am.
And I have one more question. Would this be something that essentially we would need to put out for a bid or post that we're looking for vendors on something like this, or are we?
Well, you certainly could. But we threw this together quickly because it was requested, and it's, $12,000 was one of the figures for.
Your purchasing policy would require bids or proposals when the cost goes over 20.
Over 20, I think, yeah. So it's just a matter of how you slice it up.
So since Mr. Horan has already invested some money in this, we would assume that anyone else that's going to come in that's going to be competitive would actually have to start investing that kind of money right out the gate as well.
Well, yeah, if you want to build a website, I mean, that's a pretty complicated thing to do. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And I've had my own business before and had to build a website, and it sounds simple to do, but it's pretty complicated to get all the software and the domain name and the content and how it looks, and it has the constant, you constantly have to maintain it and all of these things. So.
Quick question in regard to staff time. Do you have any idea about approximately how many hours per week would be required to keep it updated? Because I know you said you talked about Katie, you talked about yourself or additional staff or somebody. So I think it's important to know approximately, I know it's going to vary, but how many hours do you think a week in order to keep it up so that, people understand what's going on?
Miss Katie's at the podium, so okay. I defer to her.
All right, fine.
I just wanted to show attachment A. Thanks. I wanted to point out attachment A on the memo provides Marketing to Go's proposal to us, and we estimated that the content that Cindy's team would provide, as well for the Facebook and for as well as for the website and potential newsletter and other and the other website would be approximately 12 hours per week. And the price that she gave us for the scope of work, she summarized, was $2,000 per month. So that was sort of the original initial proposal we included here.
Okay, any other questions, Mayor?
My thought is $2,000 per month is very high price. We have a Facebook page run by our chief of police on top of being the chief of police for nothing. Again, all of these things need to be contracted out. I like Marketing to Go. Marketing to Go is not the only Facebook provider, even within the city of our city residents. I think every single one of these things needs to be at least put out. That might not have to be an official bid, but put out for a request to see about for pricing. But $2,000, absolutely not.
Mr. Neely?
And I'm going to repeat what I said before. And Cindy, none of this is personal. Research and gather data, which means you have to give her information, Penny has to give her information, Katie, all the department heads have to give her information, which takes away from all those things we're criticizing staff for not doing. So, got to think about that.
Can I ask a question? Do we, Drew or Mr. Whitson, does anybody know any other cities that are partnering?
Great question. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we could look into it and see.
The cities we work with have gone the other route, which is to hire an in-house information officer.
Okay. I mean, it's fantastic. It's beautiful. I think our residents would love it. But I just get very, very concerned about getting data to you.
One thing I just wanted to say is that I've got, the webpage pretty well built out. That portion's been paid for, but to build out, the SMS section of it, the QR code, the city site, I'm budgeting right now between $5,000 and $7,000 to build it out. And so that's just that portion, which would be borne by me. I'm not looking for you guys. I've spent thousands of dollars to get it where I'm at right now. So I just thought I'd mention that, just to do the city's portion of information. That's what I've got budgeted. That's actually via quotes I've received from the guys. So it's just important for you to know that I build everything so far is complete. All I've got to do is do the city page portion and all the things that there. So just thought I'd share that with you.
Mr. Cooley?
Okay, so my general communication comments, that we're just talking about stuff, so I'm just gonna, so when we did budgeting, we talked about a lot of these things. We talked about, out of the multiple positions that were hired, one of them was going to function as partly a public information officer. That was agreed on. It was budgeted. That's there. And I haven't looked at all the positions that we went through the decision modules for. I'm just going to tell you for instance, some of the things that are covered in the decision module under the admin to the city manager, their responsibilities: expand public communication, follow up on documentation and contract details, grants, increase development of public information, including the city newsletter. Under a policy goal, ensure timely and relevant communication to city residents. We planned it. We budgeted it. It hasn't happened yet. So, I guess where my heartburn is on a lot of these things is these are new things that we're going to have to spend money on after we've already done a budget that includes a lot of communication stuff in it. What I would request us to do is we focus on things that we should be doing now, talk about expensive stuff and shiny things during budgeting, not blowing our budget when we're not even doing what we agreed to do in July. There's a lot of free things that we could be doing, and some of them we agreed to do. Like, for instance, we should have a tent, staffed by people that work in the city that would be considered subject matter experts on stuff they would, be asked about. So, like, for instance, Lee might be a good potential person. They can rotate. But there needs to be an interface where the public and, simply, and we also agreed on this, it was going to be set up and never happened, but they were just going to simply put a pop-up tent out there first Friday, and questions, and all of these questions we get under public comment. A lot of that can get answered for free. Well, minus, you got to pay the folks to do it. But you have a little bit of labor, and we're not meddling in throwing our budget way off by a ton of money, bringing on things mid-year that probably should wait on. I would like to see us exhaust all of the things we should be doing now. And then if we get to the end of that line and we go, that's still not enough, then we look at, the other stuff. But we haven't even dabbled in even holding up our end of the agreement. I think we need to kind of frame this conversation. Are we looking at new platforms to communicate? Because I can tell you my thoughts are different. My thoughts are, we aren't communicating with the citizens on any platform, even the ones we got. The information is here in this room. We, the city manager, all the staff, all have the information, and we are not working to get the information to the citizens. And I think that's what they're mad about. They're not saying, I'm really mad at the city because y'all's website isn't pretty enough and the graphic user interface looks like it was done in 1990. They're not complaining about that. It's been brought up once or twice, but they're mad because nobody's talking to them. And I'm wondering if we need to kind of frame the conversation a little bit better to talk about our willingness and openness to be transparent, push out real thorough communication on stuff. You all can tell me I'm crazy and I'm off base.
I think you're on point, but and I think you're right about communicating. But as far as communicating, are we talking about, what vehicle are we talking about? I think a lot of us are out there talking to people one-on-one. You can't talk to everybody, one-on-one. So my question is, what are the vehicles that we're going to use other than face-to-face town hall meetings, commission meetings? What other vehicles are we going to use? Are we going to enhance the website that we have, the newsletter? You just said that, we budgeted for it and it hasn't been done yet. So my question is, are those dollars that we budgeted for still there to use those vehicles in order to complete this communication that we're talking about?
Sure. And I just have one other suggestion. I agree with a lot of what Eric said. We're launching this app next week, the week after. I would like to see what kind of usage we get from that, because we could dream all day long about a new website and all these things, and everybody's like, you still didn't tell me this. I don't know exactly what Laura wants to know today. I'm sorry to pick you out, Laura, but, each person comes in here with a different I want to hear about. And unless they get up here and tell us, or they call us, or they email us, or text us, or whatever, there's no way of knowing. So we could talk about the wastewater treatment plant and half the room could turn off and not really care. They should care about the wastewater treatment plant, but hopefully we never get to the point where everybody really cares about that. But I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Each person in this town has different things that they're interested in. Or they're interested in getting up, looking at the sunrise, going to the beach, looking at the sunset, and watching television. And hopefully the city just goes on its way. So from what I started with. I would like to see the app that we've already agreed to, that we're already in the process of, will it get a lot of use? And then I think we have an idea of, are people going to look at another website or another Facebook page or any of these other things?
Yeah, just to piggyback off Commissioner Mealy and Commissioner Coy, I think we need to exhaust everything that we budgeted for this year first. Look at the analytics of the app, see what type of feedback we get on the app. Bring that back to the table when we do when budget time comes. I think that's where we need to head in that direction. Have those tents at First Friday, see what type of feedback and see where we are from there. And then if we need to circle back and look for other ways, maybe it's, making the website more user-friendly or whatever it is that, before I think, again, this info website's fantastic, but I think we need to exhaust what we have, because I think let's start with the app and let's see how the functionality of the app works first, get some feedback from the citizens, and then if we need to go back to the drawing board, we go back to the drawing board.
And the app is still scheduled for Monday, January 23rd?
Yes, ma'am.
Good news.
Which cool.
I think at least one of the things that I would like to see, and I guess I'm a little bit disappointed it wasn't here, is what things can the city do that are either already in the budget or of little to no cost. So you know that a tent at First Friday is little to no cost. You could do, for instance, something like City Hall open house style thing, where you just open chambers up, you have tables all around. We've done these style workshops for other things like the pier and all, where citizens can just come in and go to a certain department and get all their questions answered right on the spot. Your total cost is staff time, maybe some snacks or donuts or something, or, it allows.
7-Eleven could provide.
Yeah, 7-Eleven could provide it for a huge markup. No, I'm kidding. No, complimentary. And just any ideas that are not $20,000. There's a lot of things. We need to maximize the newsletter. That's already budgeted. Or if we're not going to maximize the newsletter, what can we do with that $35,000 that we did budget that might touch more people? I think that there is things we can do to our current website now with staff in some of their limited time to just make it a little bit easier to navigate. And it's just a matter of listening. So, we heard a couple times in city meetings the project tracker was hard to find. So boom, you drop a hyperlink and a button on the center page. Just simple things. And but I really think that's kind of the step one is, and here's the thing, I don't have tons of ideas, but I know that they're out there of things that the city can do at little to no cost that would really bridge the gap of communication. And here's the other problem. So let's say we have an awesome Facebook page and we have an awesome, flaglerbeach.info page, and we have an awesome app and we have all that stuff, and then we have either a staff that is either maxed out or unwilling to dump a lot of content in there. Now you're back to pretty things with no content in them, and then we have to look at flaglerbeach.info filled with like Scott Bradley's sunrise pictures or something, which is really cool, but it doesn't bridge our communication gap. We have and I think that's like one of where our gap is we have the information here in this building, and we have to figure out, are we willing to get it out and make the effort to actually get it to the citizens.
Who is the host for our current website? Penny?
Civic Plus.
So the question that I have is, how much is involved to enhance the existing website?
Well, about every year, they ask us if we want to do an upgrade, and last time we did one, I think we paid about $6,000 up front, and then we entered into an agreement where it was an additional $1,600 annually on our already, I think, $2,700 maintenance cost.
So we're currently paying $2,700
Plus
annually
the
for maintenance?
$1,600.
Plus the 16?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other thing. We have some new contract with the county that includes some stuff. I don't know what. I have to review it. But Mayor, you might be able to help us out with that because I know you ran point on a lot of that. But supposedly some of those services were going to be part of this new, way more expensive agreement.
Are you talking about our information technology agreement?
Yeah, big.
I'm
whole
probably going to
package.
be coming back to you with that. The county, after we approved it and sent it over to them, they decided to do a rewrite, and I've got to sit down and go word for word and see what's up with it. So we don't have a signed contract with them.
But Mayor, I know that there was conversations about possibilities
It
that we
had bells
covered in
and
budget.
whistles.
The what?
It had some bells and whistles in it. Okay.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because, if we're currently paying for the maintenance of a website, and, the website that I have, if I want to enhance it or whatever, I can go to the provider and upgrade it. Of course, there's a cost, but with looking at the dollars that we have now, and we're talking about what we have existing now, maybe it's worth looking into enhancing what we have that may fit within our budget. Just at least to explore it.
Agreed.
I'm not trying to grenade these ideas. And that's why I wanted to.
That's why we're having a discussion here.
I really wanted to wait towards the end of a lot of this stuff, but.
Well, I'm for, let's launch that app. Let's see what kind of usage it gets. Maybe people will feel that they're getting enough information out of that, and then we don't need to look at others. I do like the First Friday idea. Have staff, and maybe one of us could be with that staff member on a rotating basis.
Don't include me. Don't include me.
We don't do First Fridays.
You have February.
We have 1 month left.
Well, and also too, where are we with the newsletter? To Commissioner Cooley's point, we budgeted for this a lot, quite a bit of money.
Yeah, we budgeted for it, and as we said, we tried the low-hanging fruit first. Okay, we pushed the information out to Flagler Strong, and they put it in their electronic newsletter, and that was going good for a little while, but then the storms happened, and then it hasn't happened. So Katie, come forward and explain what we discussed in terms of what you could do with the time that you have and what we have budgeted.
Sure. So our process for compiling all the pictures and blurbs for Flagler Strong can continue the same way. We ask staff every month by a certain date to send me any updates, things that they want to highlight. I'll add any updates, special events, review it with Mr. Whitson, see if he has anything. And that could be open to you all too. If there are things that pop up, you could send them my way to include in the newsletter. And then we can get a MailChimp subscription, whereby if folks identify that they want to receive an email newsletter, I can send that out on a monthly basis. And then we can also, for a pretty low cost, print and distribute newsletters. We could start by doing it at locations like the pier and the library, and centralized spaces folks are, and then consider if we want to mail it to folks' houses.
Comments?
Well, some of the wording that we used in the intro bothered me. So we budgeted for that in the decision module, and we budgeted for the person to do it. And it started with, what can we do within the amount of time to do it? That's not optional. We budgeted it, and it was agreed on in the decision module. It's not, we don't get into it and say, well, we charge the taxpayer this under ad valorem and they're paying for it, but we're just not going to do it because we're busy. Like that was the agreement. If you look at the decision module, it was a newsletter that was going to be drawn up, mailed monthly. All those costs were wrapped up in there. We did the whole calculation of what it was, and I don't have it in front of me to be able to speak to, but I wouldn't, That was all budgeted, and I don't want us to say we're too busy to do what we agreed to do when we approved that decision module.
No, it's not that. We were trying to save money. We were trying to do it a more economical way. But if you're saying, hey, no, we want a hard copy out there, this other technique we tried didn't work, great, we'll do that. It wasn't like we're going to take the money and just sit on it. We were trying to do it in a more efficient, economical way, and if it didn't work out, then we'll try another way.
Right, but Jane brought up numerous times under that module about the percentage of the population we have that doesn't do they're not interneters.
Mm-hmm.
And in the outreach to those folks. Now, if a newsletter isn't the way, then we'll need to figure out what are we going to do with that 35K, because it doesn't sound like it's been touched yet, because all it's been is just pushes online.
Don't you think that, I mean, in order to get an accurate account of how many people are actually not going to use it, we're just kind of guessing. The prudent thing to do is to go ahead and try it and see what kind of feedback we're going to get as to how many people are actually reading it online and how many people are saying, I need a hard copy. And from that, then we can kind of judge where we're going and what the budget should be for it. But currently we have the budget for both. But until we actually launch it and start doing it, we really don't know what the feedback is going to be and how many people are going to just say, I don't want this, throw it in the trash can, I'm just reading it or something.
Yeah, and unless the population has changed. I brought up a newsletter. I happened to come across this. I was researching something on our website, and I found what I was looking for. But anyway, I happened to come across the fact that in 2007, I recommended a community newsletter. And it was pushed off to the next strategic planning meeting, and it never happened. A few years later, I recommended to the fire department, because I had seen a newsletter from some other city's fire department that was really good. And for a while, we had a Flagler Beach Fire Department newsletter. The last one is still on the website, and it's 3 years old. We lost Dusty Snyder, who was the one who did it. And I guess nobody else in the department wanted to do it, or they felt nobody was reading it. I don't know. I never got to talk to Bobby about why we don't do it anymore. My point is, newsletters are not the do-all and end-all.
That was to close the gap, though.
I don't know.
To hit certain targets, I mean, it's all about, like you said, some people like online, some people like it in an app, some people like hard copy. That was the challenge we talked through in the budget process. So, if what we've tried didn't work, and it's obvious that, we want to try to do something different, we can do that.
Well, I mean, you look at the way we are now, with the phones and this kind of thing here, most people aren't reading a lot. They want information that's bullet types thing, and then when they want to get more detailed, they get into the minutia of it. If I'm looking for something, I'll highlight it and I'll scan it, and if it's something that I want more detailed, then I go digging into it. And I think that's most of the folks now, because everyone is pretty busy and they're moving and looking at emails and this kind of thing here, but the newsletter can be effective, but I think it shouldn't be too detailed, because most people aren't going to read it anyway.
Yeah, what we had been doing was, I think, Katie, we had a paragraph on different topics that would get pushed out. So, and we could try that and see how it works.
Or just make the other information available so that they can go to the source if they want to read more about whatever the subject is. But that's just my thoughts. I don't know.
And I'll say that both women's groups that I'm very active in, I'd say half the membership does not read the newsletter.
Oh.
And they're residents. They're typical people.
So what are we saying?
Do it or we don't, but we still need to figure out, because we budgeted the money.
Exactly, exactly. We either try this or
That's right.
Money goes back.
we nix the idea.
What's going to be the alternative?
Can I offer something to the citizens that might help you?
Well, you can open it.
No, you can come up to the mic, please. Give us your name.
Okay.
Sure. That's why you're here.
I'm here, and actually there's...
We do need you. We do need you.
It's the green button when you see it lit up.
Help out, Scott.
It's fingernails. Okay, now. Okay. Donna Snyder, 2412 South Daytona.
Thank you.
I actually heard of several sources of information tonight that I didn't know exist. And I think that might be the problem. I would never think to go to Flagler Strong to find out something other than what they do. So I think that's something, we need one-stop shopping online, you know, where you can kind of click and go wherever those sources come from. But as far as your newsletter, you could simply send out one flyer and say, would you prefer to get your information at this website, or would you prefer a hard copy? And then people can respond and you can do it accordingly. Okay.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. Scott Spradley, Yorkshire Drive, Flagler Beach. Just echoing what Ms. Snyder said in some of the comments. As I sit here, you know, I look at the quest for improved communication, right? And the first thing that comes to mind is consolidating sources of information. But yet, you know, I'm just taking notes as I'm hearing of the various platforms that we're talking about. We're talking about and the resources involved. We're hearing about the city website maintained by staff, chief's page maintained by the chief, city Facebook page, should that happen, my friend Cindy Delecky, the city app, presumably staff, the county city infotech agreement, if that ever comes, and whatever that is, and now Flagler Beach info, you know, and it just seems the opposite of sort of consolidating information into one. And I'm sure, you know, Mr. Horan's presentation was very good, lots of good information. But I almost feel that it's like we're sitting at a bench on A1A watching cars go by and just picking, well, that one's pretty, that one's pretty, that one's good, without deciding what size do we want and how much we're going to pay for it. So I think these are all good, this is all good information, but I think there needs to be, you know, a look at the bigger picture. And I liked what I just heard from Donna about, you know, the fewer the sources of information, the better, especially when it sounds like some of these sources of information are going to be linking to other places, you know. So I would just, I like what Commissioner Mealy said about let's see how the app does. That's a pretty good starting point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Cunningham, North 10th Street. So one of the things that has not been mentioned is the authoritative source. The City of Flagler Beach website should be the authoritative source for all this information. So I liked what everything Mr. Horan was saying that he was wanting to do. He was going to connect to the Sheriff's Department, the county, but he's pulling from authoritative sources to put into his site. Flagler Beach needs to be the authoritative source for their information. To do that, you might need to make some changes to your website. It's not a big deal. There's lots of web developers who can help do that. It clears up a lot of the problems. It allows you to put a newsletter out there. If you look at other cities in the state, they provide all the functionality that people have been talking about wanting, the ability to report problems, newsletters, functions, calendars, all that's on their city website. Thanks.
Robbie Robert, 600 Cumberland Drive. So I think we already have somebody on the staff whose job is called information officer, don't we?
No.
I remember seeing back when we were doing payroll thing.
They're not dedicated. The issue is that you may have someone responsible, but they have 5 or 6 other things that they have to do. There's not like one central full-time dedicated person.
Okay, thank you. So every day I click on Flagler Beach City. It's one of the shortcuts on my homepage, generally the first thing I do. And then I click on the little news button to see what news we have. And I believe Miss Katie posts stuff on there here lately regularly. I'm not sure, but whoever does puts their name there. And all the meetings always pop up, but nothing else. I don't see why in that same spot we can't have anything else Whoever's doing that already knows how to do that. Take down old news and put up new. Chasing people that don't get on the internet, to me, is a waste of time. Trying to kill ants. You'll never get done. They're prehistoric animals, There'll always be something else, How about the 99% of the folks that live here? Citizens Month. Let's catch the most amount of people we can. And just whoever's doing that site right now, and if you want to jump on there,
What
you'll
is
see
this?
something.
Robbie, what is that?
Flagler Bay City, we actually have a news page now.
Oh,
She's got a laptop.
Flash. Oh, okay.
Okay, whatever it is, somebody's been working on it, this meeting is in it.
It's updated constantly all the time.
So who does that? So,
The city clerk, Janelle, runs the website.
I do it.
okay,
So there's tons of information on that site. It's just, there's not a pretty picture there, and that's what everybody wants now. And yes, the website design may be older. The information is there. I think we budgeted $3,600 for a full year of newsletter. What are we gonna draw with crayons?
well, just if you updated, all kind of information could go on there, not just that. I've been waiting to find out how much Powell Parker Park cost. What did it actually end up at? I know what we budgeted for it. And I know we had a launch in the budget, and
Robbie, email me, I would give that to you. That's not something most cities have, that type of information like that on their website.
well, you say that, but if you go look, I see that all the time. Flagler Beach is not the only city I look at. I click on Palm Coast, I own a house over there. St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, I own some property there. So, there's other comparisons that, I just think whoever's doing that now could just add more information to it than what meetings we have.
Ms. Cooley.
So I'll just speak from, I interact with the general public quite a bit. About 2,000 people come through the store a day. And a lot of these people go, hey, where do I get quick up to the minute info on Flagler Beach and everything, and whatever's going on, stuff like that. Are you all on social media? I'll say, no, we're not on social media. And I said, but you can pull up our police department Facebook page to get a lot of the latest stuff. And they're like, wait, what? Why would I go there? Isn't there another place? So there is some quirkiness to how we're getting stuff out that we do need to look at. Now we could also, for a very inexpensive price, that you can activate like a City of Flagler Beach Facebook page. You can have it mirror a lot of the content that's being fed off Chief's page. That's very inexpensive. But it does need managed, and there's cost to that. But we have a lot of these really quirky ways that we are pushing info out, like a newsletter, and then we have a newsletter that ends up going to Flagler Strong that touches people who are engaged in philanthropy or somehow interact with the Flagler Strong group, and we do need to have a clear central point, because, for instance, when people come and they want all the latest, where can I find a will, where, and all this stuff, and other than the dead one, they prefer live ones. They want, so I'll tell them, go to Flagler Beach for Friends, and that can be super volatile in and of itself, or say go to our police department page, which they don't really understand why I'm telling them to do that. And so if we eliminate some of these quirky things and make it a lot more clear, I think that would help. And I don't think there's much expense to getting some of that stuff fixed.
Why don't we take this approach? What is actually working now?
Police department Facebook page.
Okay. Is that where everyone
And
gets...
our website, if you take the time to look at it.
I guess I'm taking a bottom-up approach to see what is actually working. So rather than trying to put out ants, I like that analogy, let's see what's actually working and try to work with that. I mean, if it's the Facebook that's actually working, then how can we enhance that and incorporate that with what we're doing? I mean, do you want to change it from police department? That's Facebook.
Well, we don't want to take his page away. He earned that.
I know, he's not only that, he's got a lot of followers.
Yeah, he would fight us for that.
I'm just talking, what is actually working for folks? Where do you get your sources from right now? You go to the Facebook and you go to the website.
I think the most successful any media platform we have is the Facebook.
I agree. I mean, that's the source of information that you're hearing. And I think what happens sometimes is things get mumbled up on some of those Facebook pages. And so if we have a source of truth, which is the city, if it comes directly from the horse's mouth, I think everybody's quickly, like, I think Commissioner Floyd just said, go to the police department website to see what's going on in the city. But if we had that official City of Flagler Beach Facebook page, people would, say, oh, okay, that makes more sense to go there to get that information, out there to people and, for the Facebook users. And I do see a lot of information getting, misconstrued on some of these other pages. So having it from the source of truth, not at all.
Mr. Phillips?
Well, and my point, does Chief mind doing his Facebook post? Because Mayor brought up many moons ago, we could just create a new Facebook page and have Chief still do the posts. I just get concerned if we have a new Facebook page, who's going to do the posts? Who's going to do the posts like him? I'll text him and instantaneously he's putting something out there.
We could have an easy solution, since we would not want to take away Chief's Facebook page that he worked hard for.
Right.
Is just create one for Flagler Beach and we use the share button. And what Chief,
whatever he posts gets transferred
yes,
over.
and then the city can still create their own content on it.
We're getting there. Yes.
After Laura, I would like to say something.
Laura Hackett, Central South. I agree with what Scott said. We need one under the city, as well as the Facebook and your app that you're getting ready to launch to see, so we know what's going on with different agendas throughout the city, not just events. And on the newsletter, I really believe it should go in the water bill. And I know y'all have put some stuff in there, but like me, I pay my water bill through my bank account, so I already know what it is, so I don't really look at it. But if you and you only need one stamp, and I don't think they're going to charge you extra to put one more piece of paper in there with your news. Well, they do?
Yep.
Okay, so you already got the money allotted, all right?
We have $35,000.
Yeah.
And there, Laura, to interrupt you, the people who live in the Nautilus and Ocean View and all those down there, they don't get a water bill.
Okay, but it will still reach out to most of them, and the water bill, just put a separate, get a certain color page with the newsletter, with just bullets, a one page, so everybody who don't use the internet, who don't use Facebook, can be knowledgeable as well. And there's times I don't get on Facebook, or I can't find what I'm looking for on Facebook, that newsletter with just points. It don't take long to do a point paper for a newspaper. I mean, for a point paper, just dates and what's going on. Just points. Nothing long, just short and sweet, separate paper from your bill.
And that's polling people, because like Commissioner Mealy said, we do that for the Women's Club, and I'm not sure how many people even bother to read it. So just poll people, would you read it if we were to push that to you?
Okay.
Sally Arnold, Sugar Mill. The problem with the bill inserts, I worked many years and where I retired from the telephone company, and we determined in marketing that the bill inserts with the telephone bill were not read. It was a very low percentage of people that even read them. My suggestion, and I like the newsletter, and I agree with Jane that there is a very large contingency of people here in Flagler Beach, and my volunteer experience prove that to us, that do not access the internet. You could do a distribution at the restaurants, and you know, that it's a brown, I don't even know who does it. It's that brown paper. It's a one-pager that is in most of the restaurants that people pick up and read, and do something like that. And it also would capture not just the residents, but people who are here in Flagler Beach and want to know things. So that would be my suggestion. Now, the issue with that is, how do you distribute it to the restaurants? I don't have a solution for that. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Sally.
Unless the board has any further comments, let me see if I can help tie a bow on this and what I'm hearing the direction to be. Would that be helpful?
Please.
Okay.
Proceed.
Obviously, we take the low-hanging fruit and we want to exhaust all the items that we have money budgeted already for. So I'm writing down, I'm saying the tent at First Friday or the table at First Friday. We've already done 1 or 2 of them. We just haven't done very consistent on that. The open house meetings, that's easy to do. We could do those. The radio interviews, those are already scheduled. We certainly have funds for a hard copy newsletter. We'll just try it, put it out in the library, the city hall, you know, the obvious places we can get it to.
See if people are taking them.
See if people take them, see what kind of feedback we get.
Farmers market?
Yep. And then as far as the mirroring of the Facebook page for the PD, you have to understand that the chief and Katie and I already collaborate every day on what goes out, what information goes out. It's just that that's not my full-time devotion. And so we try to collaborate, we try to get that done, and we will try to see if we can mirror, because a lot of times Katie will give him things and he'll put it out, and we collaborate all the time. My only concern about Flagler Beach having its own separate Facebook page is that it's a lot of work and maintenance for that. And I want to make sure if we just mirror the chiefs as a start, that's okay. And then we can take the next step later on, because feeding the thing and the energy that goes into that, the creation of the content, is very important. And we're trying to already do that, and we've been using the chief's vehicle to do that. So if that's okay to start with, I'm good with that. What I'm concerned about is creating our own Facebook page and then it not having any content because we don't have the bandwidth to feed it.
So are you talking about creating a Flagler Beach Facebook page? Chief's got his PD. When he posts, it automatically feeds?
That's kind of what I'm talking about, if that's acceptable to start.
I know Instagram feeds to Facebook. Does Facebook feed to another Facebook page? With a share button. Okay.
We think if we can do that, would that be okay for now?
I would still like to see our city staff add some of its own content. We have a full-time police chief has budgeting the time and has a huge...
We do that. We do that already. We collaborate with him.
Yeah, no, but I understand what you're saying. I'm not hearing. Is that our staff, city staff, has its own content that it will also share on its own Facebook page, provided that's not what Chief made.
Sure.
We should have the time, because we have a police chief that's budgeting time to do a Facebook page, and we've all agreed it's a full-time job.
Well, what we're going to be doing is if we're writing the newsletter stuff, it'll be that stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? We don't want to duplicate. We're trying to help each other as a team, because we have a small team. It's just not that many of us.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah.
It's something.
I remember Susie saying that young people don't use Facebook anymore.
The 20-year-olds don't, but they would use a website if we put more money towards our website next budget cycle. That sounds like it's a need.
20-year-olds are paying mortgages.
20-year-olds are paying mortgages. I sell them a lot of houses.
Beach.
All right.
You'd be surprised.
And the last item is obviously we're going to launch the app. So that's kind of the to-do list that I
He's
took.
going to be a real teller.
That I took from the discussion. If I miss something major, let me know. But I was just trying to kind of summarize it into, okay, this is what direction we are. going in. And then obviously, if we want to add more resources to it next year in the budget process, we can.
Right, that gives, if we start with all this now, it gives us months to see what's going on.
Correct.
May I, please? My name is Sandra Natubic, and I just have one thing to say. I do not do Facebook. I have never done Facebook, and I don't do Instagram. Most of my friends, their children, and them, they don't do Facebook. Very few people do Facebook anymore. Thank you.
Smart people.
I'll wait.
I'm just coming up as a citizen at this time, John Horan. I just wanted to mention that, we talked about what has been working. Well, it was obvious in several city commission meetings that things aren't working. Information is not getting out, that you can't get through a city commission meeting without being having delays, and you've got angry citizens. So the issue is you got a budget. And you got to be proactive. And that's what needs to happen because I'm a man on the street and citizens are angry. So it should just be a top issue that you guys will go ahead and get on. I was really disappointed to hear that you've budgeted $35,000 for this. And really not much has been done. And so I would want to say, just as a citizen, just observing, I think you guys got to be proactive and let's see something happen. If that's true, that there's $35,000 that has been budgeted. And so I just came to a meeting a while back and I said, holy smokes, something needs to be done. And that, as a citizen, something needs to be done.
Thank you, John.
Gary Lynn McDaniel.
Pull Dave back down a little bit.
There you go.
South Daytona Avenue. You're talking about this app, but how do the citizens know where to go to find out about the app?
Ma'am?
Sure.
Once we get the bugs worked out, we're going to do the soft launch next week. Everything looks good. Then we'll make a major media push. And we're actually going to be planning extra training sessions and things like this where we would teach people how to use the app if they needed assistance. And again, this idea that we would go to First Friday, that would be one of the things that we could demonstrate to people. And the app is going to be pretty user-friendly. I actually, walked through it myself, and if I could do it, a lot of people could do it. So we're going to see how it goes.
One of the things that they do, I keep referring to other cities, but St. Augustine and a couple other cities, is they actually have signs around the city on different locations where you can actually use the QR code or something of that nature in order to access the app itself. So that's part of the marketing and promoting it, is letting folks know that this is what you do. You just, again, scan it with the QR code, it pops up.
We have the history tour, there are signs around the city.
Yeah, but do they have it for the app?
I don't know if that's going to be part of the app.
Yeah, I think it's linked, Katie, to the app. The parking is all going to be a part of the app. It'll all be, listed and synchronized. And yeah, there may be some improvements we make.
Okay, I'm just responding to her question about how would you find out about the app, so some of the vehicles.
Quentin Parker, South Flagler Avenue. We have a lot of educated people here, retired. We don't have someone in the community that can't write us a website, one of our citizens, at a no cost. Have we put out and asked anybody?
We've
Just a thought.
already had volunteers.
I'm all about saving money like everybody else. So, there's some pretty sharp people in this community.
You'll put together another committee. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
So we still talked about budget and all that stuff, but here's my heartburn. I still hear a lot of pushback about bandwidth of staff. There's gonna have, I just got to be real. There's got to be a thought process shift about priorities and communicating with the citizen base. we can't say we're too busy, we don't have time for it, because it's, I mean, heck, every commission meeting, we're spending 2-3 hours doing it. And we have, you know, and when I say we, I mean us collectively as a city, including all the staff, have got to kind of change priority and say, okay, this communicating with citizens is currently down here and it needs to move up the list. Because all of these things, including even just a simple paper newsletter, are going to be blank minus Scott's nice sunrise pictures unless the folks decide that we are going to put content into these newsletters. You know, for instance, just as some examples, like what would be some of the great pieces of content that we would put in? Here are some action steps about what the city's going to do moving forward to mitigate flooding, you know, internally. Like here, like that's one of the #1 questions. And here's the priorities. Here's what we're going to attack first. You know, it's just simple things like that. That would eliminate a couple hundred questions right there. And but you got to want to get the information out there. And I'm not sure if we're there. And I guess city manager.
Kind of conflicted because we're talking about putting out a newsletter, and then we're talking about not putting out a newsletter because no one's going to read it. So then we're talking about a Facebook. So then we're talking about.
Well, and the issue is,
you know,
we're not putting out information. That's where the frustration is.
I understand. I think I'm just trying to drive it home as to what are we really going to do, because we're talking about the vehicles that work and the things that don't work and what we're going to spend money on. So we got to get our heads wrapped around what are we really going to do here?
So if I can jump in and try to help, maybe
Please.
move us on, because you had Mr. Whitson who just tried to tie a bow on it, and I think he repeated some of the things that you've heard from the public, and I think some of the things that you as a board have also said. You have the app launching in a matter of weeks, and I think that app launching, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of information, both maybe bad choice of words, a lot of information that's going out, but we are going to receive information as you're in that process of getting the app. Some of what Commissioner Cooley is talking about, there's going to start, the formulation of information is going to start, and it may be once that information starts flowing, some of these other questions may start answering themselves. So I think we might be a little bit asking too many questions at this point, instead of just taking the answers that you've heard several times tonight already.
Okay, so what we're saying to do is just give the app a chance, and then once we get the information and feedback from that, then we can move to the next step or enhance what we're doing.
And what I'm saying, though, is the process of getting the app out there, I think, is going to answer some of these other questions. You're going to start to consolidate where that information is flowing through, and I think Mr. Whitson will be able to better judge, okay, how can I now take this and leverage it into the next steps?
I agree, Drew. It was clearly stated that the information is here, City Hall. I got tons of information. The challenge is getting it out in a format that people can consume. And you've heard the different choices that people want to consume the information. It's not simple. It's very complicated. However, the first step is to get it pushed out. And we're going to try the app, and then we're going to build on it. So that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's putting down some of these ants now.
So are we not doing the Facebook page, or we're just going to stick with the app? I'm very
we can try that if it's simple to feed off what we're already doing.
Oh, I think we should do that because people complain all the time about Chief having, whether he's the driver, it'll be nice to have a separate page.
Well, we're in the car with him. If he's driving it, we're in the back seat.
Yes, no, I know.
So it's all a collaborative team effort.
Okay, so if we can maybe do app and Facebook page, that's my recommendation.
And community outreach, like in person.
Yeah, I actually had a list. I went right down the list, and that was all on it.
So okay, this is just to be clear. First Fridays, we're going to have staff out at First Friday, okay? we're going to have the information feeds 3 different ways. So if Robbie wants to get it from the city website, he can get it from the city website. If Robbie wants it from Facebook, he can go on Facebook and get the same message. And then it'll be on the app as well. So if we have all those things formulated in different ways for people to digest it, I think we'll be good. So I think that's, if I don't know if we're going to come to a consensus on that, but that's what I think we're all kind of wanting to get done here.
It's not going to be the end-all be-all, because all of these things are going to be evaluated to find out exactly what's really working, and then you can make adjustments accordingly. Okay?
I've had a Marietta Radiator Facebook webpage since like 2008 or 9. I still have it. I never canceled it. I don't post nothing on it, but if somebody asks a question, I get a notification. On Facebook, you can do that. You can set Facebook up where as soon as you hit it, Flagler Beach, I'd say city limits, but there's already a page, Flagler Beach City Limits, on there. There's about a half dozen Flagler Beach websites currently, but none of them have any official buddy on there. But I know I've posted stuff before, and you've corrected me, and Cooley's balled me out a half dozen times, and
I choose not to.
And I know, and I know you all read it, you know, but sometimes that's why I do that. But do you have any idea, Flagler Beach for Friends, how many people are on that website, Mr. Whitson? Any idea at all?
I have no idea.
It's actually, that's 20,000, okay? I know nobody uses Facebook, but 20,000 folks are on that website, okay? That's 4 times what the city, of all the people that don't use Facebook.
And that's great when we hear from the Adirondack Mountains
It's
what they
probably
think about what we
Flagler Beach City Limits, that page is not 3-4 months old, and it's already got almost 1,500 people. I mean, I look to see how many people are on a site before I play around on it. I mean, somebody here is capable of setting that page up tonight. Probably the mayor could do it in 5 minutes.
You got a job, Mayor.
There you go.
Anyway.
Thank you, Robbie. Appreciate it.
I think we got a good direction.
I think we do too. I
think so.
I have one thing that I'm a little bit passionate about, Civil Space. Civil Space has been used, it's a software that was used for the Wickline Playground.
Not you.
Grant, oh.
What?
They're coming up.
Oh,
You got to control.
I didn't see her. You've already commented. There's no more comments. We're coming off public comment.
He was looking at me.
I didn't see him.
So I just want a consensus on whether we should, I know the total annual cost is $9,750. When we used it for the Wickline Playground, a lot of residents interacted on that online survey.
And the strategic plan.
And the strategic plan as well. Are we close to, I don't know when we paid for this?
I think the subscription ends in a month or 2. It's already up, yeah, so.
Okay, I would like to keep it, but I'm just one voice.
Is that kind of survey, I like the idea of being able to do a survey. Is it possible to, on our app or on Facebook? No.
It doesn't have that capability. This is a software that has been developed with working
there's
with
software for
hundreds of
everything.
other cities, and there's a whole service that goes with it. And so,
How many surveys did we send out?
2.
2. And we get how many for the 10,000?
We would get up to 6, but we only used 2
Right.
because we just started out. But we only used 2 of the 6.
Right, but a lot of people.
I like it, but
would-
I like it only if we use it.
Yeah.
We need to use it a lot more.
$10,000 for
Yeah.
2 surveys.
Yeah, so we spent $5,000 for each survey.
Right.
Yeah.
I also support doing that, but again, that's up to you.
Yeah, and if we could do more stuff, we can do more
cheaper?
surveys. Oh, I don't know. Is Survey Monkey cheaper? I don't know.
Anybody know?
What do you think?
I think that's something we could almost budget for when we get to that point.
I've also used like Google Forms for surveys in the past. It's not as engaging or beautiful as the Civic Engage, but I mean it can work. And that's free.
Can I ask Katie a question? Yeah. Katie, you may not know the answer to this, but I suspect you probably do. Because I'm sure some people are asking, why can't we just use Facebook for surveys? Can you explain why Facebook doesn't necessarily give you accurate information on that kind of survey?
I'm actually not familiar with Facebook surveys, I'm sorry.
Fake accounts, that would be number one.
Outside the city, you don't know where you're getting answers from. You may be getting it from the Adirondack Mountains.
Google
That's
does
one of the
surveys.
challenges with Facebook surveys.
Google Drive.
Yeah, one of the questions that we had in our civic engagement surveys was, what is your address in Flagler Beach, to try to use to verify that. So we could do that as well. And then one of the new features of the Civic Engage this time around that they just brought on was having a database of questions that have been vetted by their survey experts that are unbiased, so we could pull those questions potentially, especially the ones around demographics. So that was a useful feature, but because that's a big consideration to have questions that are unbiased and will give accurate survey results.
Yeah, so they're asking us, are we renewing or not? And
I like it, but again, we only used it twice and we paid $10,000 for it. Unless we can commit to using the program and putting quarterly questions out there, and not just putting blanket information to use it, but actually have a need, would determine my decision. But right now, sending 2 surveys that cost our residents $10,000 when sounds like our Penny could use the money a lot more, I would not be inclined.
No, I don't disagree with that, but I just also want people to know that during the grant writing, Karen used the survey tremendously. So whether we let it lapse, and if we, need to do one, can we do one-offs? Can we do more surveys? We've got just so much going on right now that I don't think we can commit right now to do 6.
Maybe we could ask them if we can negotiate that and do, instead of paying an annual subscription, do one at a time.
We have
Pay
a
by
need.
use?
Yeah.
Pay by use.
Yeah, I'll see if they have a la carte.
Yeah, let's do that, because I think it was very beneficial, and I appreciate all the residents' excellent comments too, and they used it.
Well, and unless there's a substantial financial savings, there wouldn't be any reason to renew it now. We would just start it up whenever we need it. Unless they say if you renew, it's 50% off or something.
They're not going to.
75% off.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Whitson, you need anything else in regard to that?
I think that works. I got it.
Priorities.
You want me to kind of walk you through this a little bit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one of the things that we've been working on is, out of the 50, 60 plus projects, plus, what are the core priority items that the city manager's attention and the staff need to be focused on? And I thought we got a long way down the road with a strategic planning retreat and some of the things that we did there, and we've made some headway, some progress. But then there was this discussion about, okay, what are some of the things that are really needing to be done that are urgent in the minds of the commission. And so we put together on September 1st a master pipeline report, and that was kind of a snapshot in time of what was happening at the time. And then there was also some other projects that came up, another snapshot in time, November 22nd. So we put that list together. Since those 2 lists went out, I went back over everything and noticed, because of the storms, a few things that got missed and that are new items, that are coming up now. So you have the September 1st list, you have the November 22nd list, and then I think they put on your dais kind of a bullet point list of some additional items that we, kind of flowed out of the storm situations and some items that may have gotten missed on the lists. So the question, I guess, tonight is, what are the most important items? What are the most important priorities that the commission has? There was I guess, a straw poll, for lack of a better name, back on September 1st. You took that list, and if you'll flip to that chart, I think there was some items that received 4 yeses and others that received less. So at this point, I think Commissioner Phillips was kind of taking the lead on this exercise, and to sum it up, we put together a list, we updated the list, and then from the storms, there are more items that come. So every time you ask, okay, what's going on in the city, that list shifts, it changes, because things are not stagnant, they're dynamic, and they keep happening. So then I would like to get direction from you on, okay, are the things you thought in September, you know, the things that we need to think about now, or is that shifted, is that changed a little bit? So
before we get into this, I'm the one who didn't fill it out the way we were supposed to in September.
Okay.
To
Number
me,
2. 2 people didn't.
Oh, I thought only one.
No, you and me both.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about that too.
Okay. The reason I didn't was not because I didn't want to help out. To me, anything that is storm-related should be at the top of the list. But a lot of things are already in the pipeline. So you've already got your plans, you staff collectively. So I couldn't put it at the top of the list because we've already said we're going to do blah, 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 blah. And please don't comment while we already have plans for what we're going to do. It doesn't mean, so you say today I'm going to do this in relation to any storm project, but you might not look at it again for another 5 days. Okay, you don't do it every minute of every day. So that's why I was having a problem with what's a priority, what should he be spending the bulk of his time on, okay? Do I think all of these things are, well, some more important than others? To me, fixing the flooding problem is more important than the 4th of July fireworks, sorry. I love fireworks, but they don't come up anywhere near as important as somebody's house getting flooded. But again, I think we have to think in terms of the city manager and his key staff particularly. How much time of each day do they spend on a project before we say that's the top of the priority list? So that's why I couldn't fill out that form.
I need to piggyback on what Jane said, because we're both in the same boat. So if y'all look at this list, right, this is that big list, right? You notice that the highest number on there is 4? That's because data from 2 elected officials is missing. It wasn't even included in this, nor was any of that data put on this sheet. Jane's data and my data is missing. Jane, for her reasons, you just didn't have it on there. However, I incorporated the project priorities into Williams' evaluation, and nobody bothered to incorporate any of those priorities onto this because I didn't enter it in the sheet that they wanted. And the reason why is because I work off a mobile device and it was a pain in the butt and there's all kinds of stuff. But if I worked the priorities into the city manager evaluation. So we're starting with bad data, basically. We're starting with incomplete data because the project priorities that I just put on a Word document versus an Excel document never made it to this. And y'all overachievers are the only ones that have information represented in what we're looking at. And So I have an issue with that. I also have an issue with a lot of like what Jane just said. Is he just said there's 50 to 60 items on the list, which also doesn't even include any of our stuff. To identify some of them, well, I mean, what's important? Well, what's important is all 50, 60 of these. And I don't really like the idea of narrowing that down. But also, none of the information that was put on the evaluation never made it in here either to even be considered. So we're starting off with stuff missing.
So the comment that I have is,
did you have? Do you know something I don't?
It wasn't graded. So if you look at the 2022 priorities for elected officials, it shows each of elected officials' responses by 6. And then it's just that all 6 people didn't. There were only 4 that said that as a top priority, if that makes sense.
So did you incorporate all that into here?
Yep.
Then why does it say on this one that it wasn't? This sheet.
If you flip back 2 more pages, Katie's looking at a different document.
It's the,
Okay.
City of Flagler Beach Master Project Pipeline, is that Katie?
yeah, so the 2022 priorities for elected officials, it has elected official 1, elected official 2, up to 6. So that's what, does that make sense?
Katie, are you looking at draft City of Flagler Beach Master Project Pipeline? Active?
About 4 more pages, I think.
Back it up.
Where you are.
I think it's this one that says.
Oh, no.
Well, see, the problem is we have
So on
6
under
different
Commissioner
pages
2,
with the same info on them in
on
different
Commissioner
ways.
2, it says absolutely nothing. And that's because I couldn't fill out the form the way it was supposed to be filled out. I just could not do it.
Yeah, elected official 2,
No.
it's small.
Yeah, so elected official 2 and 5 is missing.
Which one?
They're there.
They're there on that document. But how come it's missing off this document? Right, but it says all this is missing, right?
I can't even
And then
find
all this is missing.
Thanks, Connie. I have a question.
Oh, it's twice. So official 2 is twice. Now I see that. Okay, all I saw was that.
Small, so I apologize, but see that, it says 2.
Yeah.
They're just notes.
Those are just notes.
3, 4, 5, notes for 5, and then 6.
Okay.
I have a question. The first one is, the objective of going through these priorities, is it to give you direction on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order that you're going to work? Or is it, let's take off this bottom piece and let's put that on the back burner? And my concern is, during budget, it was brought up that maybe we're being overzealous with projects, and yet we've budgeted for them, and then now we're going to potentially not get them completed. And I feel like we are in this roller coaster of not getting things done, and then we have this new list of new projects for the master pipeline that we haven't even discussed. We have, for an example, Jane said, 4th of July and drone lights. We have trailer park redevelopment and master plan. We have...
Can I stop on that one?
Yeah.
What even is that? Because I have been a part of no discussion where we said we were going to even consider doing a redevelopment or a master plan for private property.
In the CRA plan, that was one of the nexuses for getting the CRA established. There's been a change of ownership, and there are plans being drawn up or considered by the owner to redevelop the park.
But we already agreed in, I don't know if it was in the rewrite of the LDRs or it was somewhere involving Larry Torino.
Correct.
Don't remember where. That it would be commercial space. If that was no longer a trailer park.
It can't be.
Well,
There's no zoning for trailer parking. So
There's a
it'd be
statute that has to be followed for them to change the use. And the idea is if they, the owner, want to come forward with a redevelopment plan that would make them, say, for example, mixed use, that's an option and a possibility, and that project could be coming forward.
Okay, this is a good example. We have, for another few days, a planner. So this should not be a William Whitson problem right now. This should be a planning department problem.
Yep, which
So-
I'm responsible for.
You're responsible for everything. We all know that. That's being the city manager. But it's not like you should be spending a bulk of your day on something that another department or a department should be looking at. So that's why, to me, it should not, any of those things that, like that one, are handled by a department, you should not be considered. I hate to bring up the golf course, is a legal problem. That's him. Okay, you might talk to him during the day once in a while about it. Where are we? Because so that one of us or somebody out there decides to ask, you have an answer. But again, it's not, I don't know how to get this across. It's not something that you should be spending the bulk of your time on. You have employees that do these things.
Well, I can tell you if the trailer park, and it should be zoned general commercial, because the reason why the zoning was changing was because there's no such thing as trailer park zoning. That was the whole purpose of it. It can't exist. So we had to put it under something. So it went under general commercial. And if somebody who owns general commercial property is improving it, I don't know why why would this even be on our radar?
Well, anytime you have redevelopment going on, it's going to be on your radar. I mean, it's going to move through the city. There's going to be development approvals. There's going to be community outreach. It's going to generate work. And I think that was why. So I think if you took this from the specific to the general, incorporating both of your comments, to just redevelopment activities, that's a constant on this list, that he's overseeing.
Yes.
Right, but
Would you compare that to like the hotel project where it is, because again, that's a private property, that's their
Exactly
own
what I'm saying.
project.
Yeah.
Essentially, we don't get a say-so in any of the project. That's their project as long as they're.
But there's review process, so you do get a say-so.
As long
And
as
that's what
they're-
he's overseeing, is when it's moving through City Hall, is City Hall doing what it has to do.
Right. Is there all the parts coming together so it's a quality development?
Now, you had mentioned something regarding the CRA redevelopment. Does it have to be redeveloped because it's in the CRA? Because Palm Coast,
Well, you can't mandate
Okay.
redevelopment.
well,
No,
trying
it's
to
in the
understand.
plan. My point was, it's in the CRA and it's in the plan. And there is redevelopment activity that may be taking place coming forward. It's beginning to move in the process. It's just,
you have a CRA director,
Yep.
and you have a planner who can work together, and you don't have to spend a lot of time on that.
nope, I'm aware of it, that I don't
Yeah,
spend a lot of time on it.
right.
Yes.
so on your list of priorities, this would be a 1.
That'd be a low one, yeah,
Okay.
for right now.
It shouldn't even be on here if
Well,
it
I
hasn't
know.
even come to City Hall. That's up to the developer to bring this.
That's what I'm trying to communicate to you. It does all move through City Hall. It comes to City Hall because it goes to planning board. It comes to you. It does move through City Hall.
Right, but it hasn't even been brought here. Developer hasn't come.
Coming to you is the last step of development. You are the last people to see development applications.
No, it hasn't even, my understanding is nothing's even come to City Hall, period.
I don't know on this specific, but what I'm telling you is development activity, forget the specific on this list, development activity is always going to chew up management time, and not just Flagler Beach, everywhere, and in part because it's what the last item we dealt with. And you all saw it with the hotel. As soon as, long before an application is on an agenda to come to you, there's chatter in the community. And it's incumbent upon staff to stay ahead of that with that community outreach we just finished talking about. So there is a lot, trust me, I'm just speaking from experience here, there's a lot. And your point's well made, it doesn't have to be him, but somebody in City Hall is managing information as it's coming in and coming out, and also interfacing with whoever that developer is, and trying to communicate to developers, and if they're new in town, new developers who haven't had the benefit of coming to all these meetings and hearing from our community and hearing what people want in Flagler Beach. That information that's getting back to developers so that they build projects that fit in with the city, it's starting in your city hall and in your planning department. I mean, that's where that information is coming from. So there is a lot of work. Please do not minimize the work that goes into development activity long before it gets to you guys, because there's a lot that's going into it.
But there is something going on with that particular property currently.
Yeah.
So I guess
He's making people clean it up.
Well, I know, but I guess what I'm trying to do is maybe drive it home where we can all kind of come to some kind of agreement here, is that there may be some major redevelopment or development going on that's going through our building department, which is under him, which he's listed, I guess. I'm just trying to think here, because it is something that your staff has brought to your attention. Or is that where we are? Is that why it's on the list?
Correct, and as Drew said, there's lots of processes and things that have to be communication
Just trying
and
to get it
effort
clear
to get it to you in good order.
And that's why it's on your list.
Yeah.
So to your point, so it's something that might hit the radar sometime. How do you put a number on it?
Low.
I mean, that's the whole thing is.
With development activities, I don't know that it's possible to assign a number. I'll tell you, when we get into development, any type of development applications, and in part of this is driven by state law because we now have shot clocks. They have to move through boom, 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 boom. The cities can't take as long as they used to take in considering these things. Development activities are often become priority once they start. Once you get that formal application in, for two reasons. One, because of that shot clock those shot clocks that statutes have imposed upon cities. And two, because you are going to have, once that developer starts churning money, which as soon as they submit that application, probably before they even submit the application, they've been churning money, they're going to be on that phone every day saying, where's my development application? Where am I in the process? I mean, you know it. You heard it from the developers that you had last year, you know, and you're still hearing from them because now they're moving into the next phases of their process. They're moving into site plans. And you know, Larry's fielding those phone calls, and if they can't get Larry, or if they're not getting the answer they want from Larry, I can guarantee you I know whose phone they're calling. And that's it. And so that it does generate work.
And this is the exact reason why we can't do what Jane was saying. If you have 50 or 60 items and we were going to sit here and pull out the top priorities and all, you can't do it because all 50 or 60 of them are moving pieces, and it's a completely dynamic environment, and the priorities change based on, well, this redevelopment master plan that might come if they decide to do it. Sure. Is it important today? No, absolutely not. Will it be important tomorrow? Could be. And, you know, to your point, how do you even begin to start to number this stuff?
I totally agree. And when I filled it out and I went down the list and I had the same thoughts. But by the same token, I was responding because we were the ones that said we wanted to know the priorities, and each one of us has a different priority when you look at this list. And I thought the idea behind this was so that we could all submit our priorities to come to some kind of conclusion, or at least to some kind of priority that he could use in order to prioritize them based on our input. And I knew it was going to be difficult because you got 6 individuals here who has different ideas about what is a priority. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't know how the heck he's going to do it, but there it is.
Right, and I agree. I know that stormwater and flooding is priority. I think we all know that. But like you said, we all have our passions and possibly things that need to be replaced or redone in the city that, you know, we need to prioritize.
So I'm going to break it down to the time when I was in the Marine Corps, okay? So we have a commanding officer. You're a commanding officer for the city, right? Then within that command, you're going to have your your experts in your different areas. You can have your S1, which is your admin. You can have your S2, which is your intel, right? So what I was hoping to see here tonight would be, or in the future, just something to think of is, okay, here's what my grounds crew says. These are their top priorities, right? And then they say, sir, this is what we got here, and this is what I want to bring before the commission for them to say, hey, this is what we believe needs to happen. And then you can take your expertise and say, commissioners or mayor, this is what I think we need to have done, here. These are our top priorities. Now, if you want to switch those priorities around, this is based on my staff that's in there, as kind of Jane said, that that you're not, it's not his responsibility maybe to oversee the CRA or oversee certain things that are coming in from the city planner, until maybe later on, or if they can't get a hold of someone. But what I would, maybe moving forward, what we have is they come to you, say, boss, this is what we have. And then you then take it to us and say, this is what my staff and I've come to, and this is what we believe are the top priorities that need to be fixed now. And then if we, I'll then say, well, maybe this could move here, and then we give him a consensus from there. That's kind of my thoughts.
But we do that with the strategic planning meeting, and we do that with budget. All right, in the strategic planning meeting, we talked about what was important. We had some staff input that day from some of the key staff. And then when it comes to budget, we're down to the nitty gritty of will we do this and will we do that. So I find all of this, I'm using the word redundant today. But I don't see the purpose.
If I could leapfrog. Yes, it's far more detailed, but if I could leapfrog off of Commissioner Sherman's comment and help forge some consensus. You're right, things shift and change every day, and there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, and I think that was part of the concern in having this discussion, is because we have 6 different maybe points of view, and the idea is to come as close together as we can, so I know what to really focus on most of my time. And right now, I'm going to just throw a list on the table. I'm not saying this is the way it should be. I'm just throwing that list out from what I'm hearing lately, from looking at the list and hearing discussions. My list would be wastewater plant, the pier reconstruction, the beach renourishment and sand, the dune walkovers, the drainage improvements and the projects related, those there too, and the infrastructure and the grant process related to that. Now, that's just a quick and dirty list based on a lot of conversations and a lot of kind of thinking about it. But if we could take that and then say you go back and look at all of this information and you have a different rearranging of the list or item that I missed, that would be great. That would be good direction.
Did you put those in priority order? Or
yes, ma'am.
See, I agree with what's in there.
That's what I'm saying. I've thrown it out here as a straw man.
My number 1 is shut-off valves for the row 2.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing, though. So you have those things listed, right? And a lot of what you listed is in motion and on track, and
yes.
It's actually, the reins are held by other government agencies other than us.
That's right.
So are they really top priority projects of his? Well, yes, but also no, because he doesn't have the reins.
But he has to keep after them.
You're right, but so here's something else on the list. Staffing 100% all departments. It's down on the bottom. I mean, he has direct control of that. It's at the top of the second page.
No, he doesn't. Because there aren't people applying for some jobs. I don't know if you got a chance to read it. That was one of the best things I've read in a long time that we put out today. And, yeah. About how we can do all the project planning we want, but finding the people to do it.
Okay, well, I am going to categorically disagree about that. We don't have 100% control of staffing all over in all departments. I operate a private business. It is a retail convenience store that's open 24 hours a day. I don't pay great. I'll just say it right now. And I don't have benefits. And I stay at 100% staffing minus a couple weeks out of the year.
And I don't want to put down your staff, but the skill set that they require to work at your store is a little different from the people.
And what, the grounds crew? That's the whole thing.
It's not just grounds crew, because the individuals that are applying for the wastewater treatment plant have to have certain certifications, as well as the number of, because I've talked to William about this. I said, why the hell can't you get people on staff? Excuse me, but I was like, get some people in here to, and I've looked at the ads that Penny's put out and the responses. I mean, just like the finance director. I mean, I looked at all of those applicants. I looked how many in there. And you get a list, and then you get it down to the bottom line, and then they don't show up, or they. And I'm not just, I'm not disputing it, because I'm just saying there are different skill sets. Because I looked at and I talked to the staff, and I was like, how many people you got working on a wastewater treatment plant? How many you got working in the water treatment plant itself, and the grounds crew? I talked to those guys. I said, why don't you guys have some more help? He says, well, I got my cousin coming over, then the cousin doesn't show up. So it is difficult, but I think it should probably be an ongoing thing to be 100%. Maybe it shouldn't be at the bottom. It should be at the top. It's just like, you just keep beating that horse to death until you find somebody that's hungry enough to come to work.
Well, and that's the thing, that I phrased this as we are trying to develop a priority list. And what we're saying is, I'm not done. What we're saying is, okay, we're going to have them track the pier. We're going to track the DEP project that's been going on for 20 years. We're going to track all these things. And then, but we're not going to have staffing 100% all departments as a top priority, because it's down here buried on the bottom. And, when we make these lists, it's identifying where our greatest needs are. Do we need our city manager to micromanage departments that don't have to listen to him and he has no control over? Sure. Do we need him to get his department staffed? Probably sure more. Or sure men. But sorry, that was terrible.
That was very sad. That was bad.
I got a lot of them.
That's okay.
But the thing, so can it be done? It's debatable. I would say yes. Others say no. But I thought we were developing the priority list. And so is staffing not important because we have a self-defeating mentality and we just don't think we can do it? Or should it be really a top priority?
Well, I mean, the thing is, with this whole priority list, there are so many things that we don't have control over is going to change it. So it's constantly changing. I mean, that's the way I looked at it. I was like, I look at this and, you might have a lift station that's number 15. And then all of a sudden the thing blows up. You need $500,000 or whatever it is to replace a lift station, and now it becomes a priority. So this is a floating priority list, and I think we're kind of shooting in the dark.
That's why we pay this guy $150 grand a year to balance it, so we don't carve this in stone today to have it changed next week, and because if we say, here's your priorities, next week it changes because, say we have a nor'easter, and, right, a Sherman, we have a Sherman, and, and then the whole thing goes out the window, and then we're back to square one. He says, well, here's where the priorities were. And my whole thing is, and I've said it all along, what are the priorities out of 50, 60 items? All of them. And that's what we pay this guy a huge amount of money is to balance that.
And here's the point I'm making. Your priority is not my priority. And if I go into his office and I tell him, I want the berms on Palm Drive taken care of next week because the people are flooding. Sherman comes in, I want the folks down on 27th Street taken care of because they're flooding. So where are we going to prioritize? Is it going to prioritize me? Is it going to prioritize Sherman?
Can he just prioritize?
We do that. Well, the best thing to do is do it in the meeting.
I know, but what I'm saying is that his priorities are going to change with each one of us dictating what those priorities are based on our constituency that's giving us feedback. So I'm not trying to say that give it an excuse, but I'm just trying to say this is a juggling match that's ongoing.
We represent everybody in the city.
I just use that.
James doesn't represent only the people on 25th Street or 27th Street.
That was just an example, Jay.
Okay, but can't we just say that anything, I started this half hour ago, with saying, can't we just say that all flooding-related issues are a top priority, and then whatever the issue is of the day? That's, but there are other ones in here that tie in with it. So instead of listing them as separate, then just say that anything that is storm rehab related, that is flooding related, those are our top priorities. And the beach is a top priority, the status of the beach, and that does change all the time. Today you got a notice from the county, we got gazillions of dollars coming in, but no plan as to how it's being used. So that was important today. So let's pick out major topics and
then group the projects
and
that
then
are
whatever
related. And that was
projects-
kind of what I was
yeah, that's up to you.
Yeah.
Whatever, I would say storm-related, flooding-related projects or problems are the most important. Now, whether today it's dealing with 25th Street or 27th Street or Lambert Avenue, we had issues too. Or it's North 11th Street or whatever street it is. Deal with it. And then the other things, lift stations in general. Okay, I don't care if it's by Publix or wherever else you listed here, Snack Jacks. I mean, not that I don't care that their lift station needs fixing, but lift stations need to be fixed in general. So that's another priority. And clump them together into major categories. And whatever comes up that day, comes up that day. You can't predict that.
To your point, that's where I was going. I listed out some, I guess, core areas or big themes, right? So if those sound close, I could then take those themes and organize projects underneath those to give you some idea of what that means. Like when we're talking about drainage improvements, for example, we would list all of those items that relate to drainage improvements. Okay. Beach access, those are all your dune walkovers. You know, the beach renourishment, the pier reconstruction, the wastewater plant is going to be the highest ticket item this city will spend money on. I think that's going to be something I should pay a lot of attention to. But again, if I could throw out those categories and then list the related projects, get it back to you, would that be headed in the right direction? Would that be a good start?
I think that's a good start, but also like Commissioner Sherman's analogy as well, as far as the department heads being responsible to a great extent to some of the things that you're talking about. So that's where you're depending on your staff to prioritize which one of those lift stations. I mean,
yes.
If Benny goes out there and he says, you know, I got a lift station on Lambert, I got a lift station on 26, it's up to Benny to determine which one of those, which one he's going to take care of. So I think to Commissioner Sherman's point, using the staff, your department heads, to dictate what those priorities are, and then you using that to kind of set your priorities and report to us. This is what my staff told me, this is the priority that they need to address. And then
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what, just a good solution that, since we've got this ball rolling, is the department head then updates Whitson updates us.
Right.
And it's our job to update the residents. Here we had last week an example where we were waiting on a bolt for a lift station or a shut-off valve that we were waiting on. And it's our job to make the residents aware that we are working on our projects. And I'm going to say, this is a disaster. This it hasn't been updated since November. It's an Excel worksheet. It's very archaic. I had actually asked for a copy of this today, and I was going to do the work on it, but there are project management tools that you can take these Excel documents, drop them in, then take the widgets and put them directly on the website so the residents know exactly where the project is, can drill down, see the information, and it's a big piece of our communication. So you've got Donna who knows that, all right, in 2 weeks, I know this part's coming in and it's coming in, and you had whoever Vinny or one of the guys that's in that department was the one that updated it, or Lee was the one that updated it. There's different people and it shows who updated it, and it's just a big piece of communication that I think would be beneficial.
Is that interactive with each one of the department heads?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's like $50 a month.
Mr. Cooley.
So what you got done describing is called strategic planning, and we did that. And now we're being asked to almost do it again in the first quarter of the new year. And I have heartburn about that because we just did it. I mean, we did strategic planning, and then we made our budget based off our strategic planning stuff that we put together. I don't want to do strategic planning again now. I want to do strategic planning. If we are, we're going to do strategic planning and then budget off it and follow the process like we're supposed to. But to say we have these 5 concepts and then under them is those subgroups and everything, that is literally what we did in strategic planning. We did that exact thing.
Storms in the meantime. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I said that very same thing before.
But, I mean, we get storms
now-
every year. Like, that shouldn't affect our strategic planning because priority, like,
earthquake.
When, the city can't stop everything else and only focus on hurricane stuff.
I agree.
If your street is flooding, you will.
Well, you will for that week. But HR is going to continue to HR, and then this other department is going to continue to do their thing. But you don't deviate from your strategic plan every time you have inclement weather.
It's more than inclement weather. We didn't know we were going to deal with flooded houses. We didn't know that we were going to deal with sewage coming up through people's toilets and showers. Did we know that?
Yes, we did, because we didn't fix anything from Hurricane Irma.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, I expect it every year. And again, maybe we have we need to redo strategic planning because you don't deviate from strategic planning.
Plan. The word is plan. It doesn't say etched in stone. It's a plan. And we are going in that direction. And now we just have to pick out more. Things became more important than they were last spring.
Okay.
Certain things.
What you're correcting me on is regular verbiage. I mean, it's strategic planning. I said planning, you said plan.
Well, planning.
I mean, I don't know why you're interrupting me or something like that.
I'm sorry.
You have to, you got to keep the ship on course. We can't have a speed bump in the road and say, okay, well, we're going to throw this out and start with something new. And I guess that's my point.
Suppose we get a, what do you call it when the road opens up?
Pothole?
No.
Oh, one of the biggest sinkholes?
A sinkhole instead of a speed bump. Would you then want to spend more time on that road than you thought you were going to the month before?
I would call up FDOT, and then I would keep hiring in the departments I'm short-staffed in. And I would continue focus on the people.
Well, I think that we're kind of spinning our wheels here because, please don't yell out at
You don't have to be here. If we're wasting your time, Robbie?
Okay.
This is the reason that we have,
Sir.
this is the reason we have 6 people
Please do
representing.
not interrupt the meeting.
We have 6 people with 6 different points of view, and we talk about it and hopefully come to a conclusion. If we all agreed all the time, we could just have one.
We're not fighting yet.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, to Robbie,
Okay.
because Robbie walked out.
I think that Commissioner Cooley has a valid point as far as strategic planning, and I agree that we are still focused on a strategic plan, but what's happening here in some of these priorities that I look at, they've been drilled down to a great extent as components of that strategic plan. And I think we can still stay on course with the strategic plan and still try to focus on prioritizing some of the things that's within that. I don't think the plan has really changed that much. It's maybe the priorities within it, but I think you have a valid point. You know, we can, once you've established that, you have to stay within it. I get back again to what Commissioner Sherman was talking about. Hopefully we can bring this to a conclusion here as far as trying to give some direction as to what we would expect to be a reporting of the priorities back to us and for him to act on. And he's identified some things there, but by the same token, I think that it's incumbent on the city manager to depend on the staffs that he had also to establish those priorities, report those to him, bring them back to us, or do some kind of report to let us know, because we need to know the information of those priorities in order to respond to a Donna that says, where's my valve? You know, you guys promised me 2 months I was going to get a valve. Where's my valves? You know, and if he has that report from the staff that's actually responsible for that, and maybe Lee or whomever, then he can respond to us about that particular priority.
Yeah, that's it. You know, like, okay, we emailed the vendor on this date. This is what we did to get this valve. And then Mr. Whitson then can take that to us and say, hey, Commissioner Mayor, this is what I've done. This is what the staff's doing to get this job done, to execute the plan, whether it's in the strategic plan.
That's not creating a priority. That's answering.
But it's letting us know what's happening on the priority list that we have, that's top, that we've had to maybe improvise or adapt to due to, as you mentioned, our two natural disasters that just hit us earlier or late last year. But those were things that I think for years now have been in the pipeline to get addressed, and now they're coming back up, literally. So I think we have to improvise, adapt to it, and overcome. And I that's all.
Well, the mayor had some suggestions regarding some of the interactive approaches that we could use with inexpensive technology, you know, and that's, you know, using the, I don't know, it was spreadsheets.
Right.
I have the top 10 project trackers of 2023 already listed.
Project trackers could be very important with what we're doing here, because he has a lot of department heads that are reporting him. There's a lot of parts out there. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff that's back ordered. So it's difficult to keep up with all of that stuff. But if you have the project tracker where it's feeding that information to the city manager, then he can actually look at it and say, Commissioner Phillips, this is where we are right now.
Yes, and I think that was the original intent.
Right.
I mean, good start with an Excel spreadsheet, it's just not good enough. You know, it's just not good enough. So, and having one person update it isn't good enough either. So having the department heads go in, you know.
Almost daily.
Yeah, really, kind of their, I don't know.
If something's coming in for this wastewater treatment plant, they can update it.
Right,
If something's
throw it in
coming
there.
in Parks and
Throw it in
Recs,
there.
they can update it.
Well, this is what Commissioner Phillips brought up
eons ago.
late summer, this exact thing.
Yeah, we've already asked for it. This was actually in my city manager review, was something just like this.
Right, so just to take away an important takeaway, the mayor's done a lot of the legwork, see what we can do to get a better project tracker than an Excel spreadsheet.
Do we have a consensus
And
on
on a
that?
shared drive where different managers can.
Susie, you said
Because
it's
that can help us move
$50
in
a
the right
month.
direction? Okay.
All right, for $50.
Well, and I think that was it, you know, last time we brought it up, it's always about the money.
Oh, it's so
But it's
cheap.
always
I
about the
was
money, and if it's that cheap.
blown away with how cheap it was, and that was the #1 program, was that cheap.
So that's on this sheet. It's right down here, the project tracker.
Right.
And that's,
No, I think it's lacking, it can be, but I think it'd be really good, it can be really good, it'd be beneficial, it's communication for our residents.
So the mayor can assist with getting that on board, or?
I was going to try to have it done by this meeting, but we didn't have an Excel spreadsheet to share. That was not sure if it was the right one.
Mayor, can you have it by the next meeting?
I'll probably have it by tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. Perfect.
Can I just say one thing? Like, I find it unconscionable that you people would support that list of priorities he just threw out. The flooding of our homes was not one of the 6 priorities, top priorities.
I disagree.
We've been doing this
I disagree.
for 4 or 5 years now, since Irma. Nothing's been maintained, nothing's been repaired. We've got promises, we've got letters, we've got absolutely nothing, no action whatsoever. None. Your vision statement over there, what's the third thing? Provide a clean, healthy, and safe environment. How clean, healthy, and safe do you think the blocks of 23 to 28 are after being flooded half a dozen times? You need to stop meeting and surveying and thinking about and in the works and planning and do something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in defense of that list, weren't you talking about?
Yes.
You were.
Drainage improvements.
Drainage improvements.
It was the broad category which would address the concern.
Okay, Mayor, you can work with city manager and,
Already got it to Penny.
okay, all right, great. Okay, any other discussion on that particular item there?
We didn't get anywhere.
Yes, sir.
Rick Belhammer, Flagler Beach. Back when Bruce Campbell was city manager, he did weekly highlights. And I look forward to seeing those weekly highlights as a resident because it had all these little projects, you know. Water line blew out on the north end. People down the south end don't know why they hadn't seen Public Works for a while. It's very informative, and if the department heads wouldn't take very long for a department head to sit down and write down a couple of highlights of what they were busy doing that week and pass that through to the city manager that can somehow get it plugged into, you know, a database of what you're talking about. Another thought, it's a priority. Any list you come up with should have the wastewater treatment plan on it. We have the money, we have the loan, and the longer it takes, you know, the more it's going to cost. So no matter what else happens in the city, that should just be going full throttle. So I hope that stays at the top of any list. That's it, thanks.
Okay, just to comment, the wastewater treatment is in fact on top of the list, and it's moving ahead quite rapidly, actually.
Good evening, Keith Taylor, one of the managing partners with Flagler Beach Villas, used to be AKA Flagler Beach Trailer Park. So probably for 30 years, I know it's been an eyesore. And I know we're on this list, but at this point, we're not part of this list. The only meetings that we have had, we were the ones that actually contacted the city. We were more concerned with the flooding that was going on, you know, down on Flagler Avenue and things of that sort, trying to get the tenants to where they weren't, you know, wading in mud and sewage and whatever else is floating by. Honestly, at this point, I think you guys got much other things to worry about than what we have on our plate, which, you know, right now, if you ride by there, I know it's been 30 years of eyesore, and we've been there, 5 months? This is my partner, Kenny Stevenson.
I've heard about you.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, we're working hard to, you know, clean the place up. Right now, our only vision is to just make it where it's not an eyesore, where it's part of Flagler Beach 5. And how we get there, I don't know. We've had, you know, talks with the CRA director. She's got her vision of what she would like to see, but, you know, with $4,350,000 at stake, it's a little hard to just say, hey, do what you want with it, you know. And we have a lot of tenants that have been there for years, and we want to take care and do what's the right thing. We took 4 trailers, I mean, big trailers of trash out. We probably could have took 40 out. We gave them 30 days, and we gave them another 60 days to take it out, and we just kept taking trash out. And I think that what you guys will see in the next 2 to 3 years, which that's a goal that we're reaching out trying to achieve, that you will see something that doesn't even represent a trailer park anymore. That's our hope. And that also will give not only a better vibe in Flagler Beach, but it'll also give workforce housing a chance where there is none. But that's all I wanted to say.
We appreciate you coming and appreciate you working on the property itself.
And I have seen improvements.
Yeah, it's baby steps, but we will get there.
And it will still be a trailer park?
Yes, at this time, yes. Yeah, it's Flagler Beach Villas, you know, we gotta be. But yes, we're planning on it staying a trailer park at this time. It's just gonna be not what it's been for the last 30 years, so.
Thank you, sir, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Alrighty.
Scott Spradley, Yorkshire Drive. When I hear the discussion about priorities and the project list, as a resident, what's meaningful to me is not necessarily how each of you put a project as a priority. And I'll explain that in a moment. What's important to me is the part that Commissioner Sherman was talking about, and that's having a meaningful spreadsheet or whatever you want to call it, project management app that breaks down the status of the projects. That's what means something to me. Mr. Whitson's title, the second word is manager. Manager is not in your titles, and so I think it's interesting, it's important that you individually let him know what your preferences are. But at the end of the day, the priority of these projects rests in Mr. Whitson's lap, and then he's accountable to the board for how he does his job. So it's interesting to hear what your priorities are to me, but really I want to see what those projects are doing, and then rely on the city manager to prioritize them for the, in a manner that best meets the needs of the residents.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you need any further direction as to where we're going, or?
Or any direction.
Any more comments? I mean, he's getting a lot of direction tonight.
I have appreciated the conversation. It's been helpful. I will start with maybe taking the extensive list, grouping it, and then, putting the related projects there. And then, we've always said this is a process, that more information is better. The constraint that we've had starting up is that we've not had a dedicated person to manage that list, but we're going to try to work on a system to get the feedback into a central point and then list it out in the tracker software. So that's how we'll get going, and then as we go through time, it should get better.
There's a lot of stuff that can get grouped together. I mean, you got all kinds of things that can group under communication. Just as far as flooding and infrastructure goes, there's a minimum of 10 items under here. And it sounds like we had a consensus that all flooding infrastructure that we are responsible for is a priority, is it not? Is that, I mean, so you have that.
Right, and I don't mean to be misunderstood. That was on my grouping. I mean, that's one of the issues that's on the forefront.
That's why I asked you if you meant them in the order you said them. I liked all of the ones that you said.
Yeah.
But like what was
Well, now, if you wanna-
most important?
Sure,
What
I
was
mean,
the last one you said? So.
The top one to me is the wastewater plant, but again, if you all want to rearrange that list, that's fine. I'm just trying to give you a sense of what I'm hearing and what I think is important, and what's pressing, and that list shifts and changes all the time. But at the end of the day, you're right, we need to stick to the strategic vision, and I think if we can get going in these directions, we'll have a better city, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right?
Well, I think that, Scott kind of zeroed in on what what we should be focusing on as well. is that you are the manager and you're responsible. We're not the managers, we're legislators. However, we're also hands-on, so we respond to the Donnas, we respond to the Ms. Natuliks and the others that come to us with their priorities, because if their streets are flooding, that's a priority to them, and they bring it to us and let us know. And of course, you know, we're trying to respond to the constituents, so we beat up on you and say, this is a priority, we got to get this done. So then, you know, you're getting drawn in a lot of directions, and I think by the same token, we have to trust you to be the manager, and if not, then we hold you accountable, you know, accordingly. But I think we have to give you a chance to do that, but you also have to respond to that by using your staff in order to, you know, get the things done.
Can I suggest something to consider along those lines that might help this conversation, and I think help moving forward? And it's maybe to take this moment to realign the dais as well as the expectation in the public for how that information is conveyed at meetings. Because now I am sitting back from my viewpoint back here where I'm, you know, leaned back watching everybody. And, you know, it's gotten more and more this way recently, where we spend more time in the public period. Question. We get to the end of the questions, quiz the city manager. If the expectation is, city manager, you're going to interface with your department heads, he's not going to be in these meetings. I mean, he's coming into these meetings, I know because I had the conversation, trying to guess every question that's going to come up so he has the answer, because he's kind of living by that everything's a priority that you're saying. Well, if he's trusting his department heads to feed information to him, he may or may not have that information at that meeting. But if he's doing exactly what you're saying, what will happen is he can leave that meeting, talk to his department heads, and come back in 2 weeks and have that answer. So maybe if we can change that dynamic a little bit, that will actually empower him to do exactly what you're talking about and move away from this. If somebody at the podium asks a question, city manager, you better know it right there and then.
And that's...
But not 2 weeks.
But that's the point that I'm...
When's the next opportunity? I mean, that's what I'm saying. If I mean, it can be, he can get the information to the public, I mean, to that person, sure. But I think, you know, to the extent that you have that question as a board, he needs to tell you as a board, and that's going to be at the next meeting.
And that's the, I guess that's the dilemma that I've had here, is because I never experienced it before where the city manager or staff or anyone else had to respond right then with the correct answer. I mean, traditionally, what typically happens in most organizations is that the individual's concerns and their number and their name is taken, and if it can't be responded to in a, you know, in a correct manner, then staff or the city manager or someone will get back to them with that answer.
And by all means, if he has the answer, sure, let him give it. But my point is, I think when we, you know, if it's me and you'll hear me, I don't know that tonight. And the reason I say that is because the worst thing I can do is give you wrong advice. So I really, let's put the brakes on, because I don't want you to run off a cliff. And so that, but that's kind of what I'm talking about. And I don't feel bad doing that, because that is me doing my job. You know, it's to say, I don't know, I see the cliff, I don't know how to stay away from it right now, give me a little bit of time. But, and to Commissioner Cooley's point, yes, by all means, I was not saying that resident has to wait 2 weeks, but I think the answer should be reported back to the commission too. I don't think you should be left, if somebody asks, because they're talking to you. You know, if they ask you a question, you should get that answer too.
But Drew, where in the meeting then would he come back with that follow-up?
Staff report.
Okay.
Or call that individual up the next day or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm saying, I'm not talking about the individual. He can interact with the individual on that schedule. I'm talking about his interface with you, and I think staff reports, and it may not even be, he may not even have to discuss it. But if, you know, to use Rick's point with the weekly updates, you know, if you just have a written, you know, we could put together a list with all the questions that were asked, and you could spell out all the answers and what was done to answer those questions during the week. So I think there's lots of room, lots of avenues to go there, if you give him the ability and the time to do it. Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay to talk now?
Sure.
I've been in places where people feel like I shouldn't speak at all. And I don't know city business as well as you guys do, but I do know my husband. And he is responding to being burned because he didn't know what your priorities were. That is why he's trying to determine what is important to you, because you are the ones who torment him when he misses something. If everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. And you are killing my husband. Please give him some direction, or allow him to not know everything and not get everything done when you want it done. Yes, a hurricane, call it a bump in the road if you want, but it consumes their time. It consumes his time. It consumes the staff's time. It puts things in a different order, and things have to wait.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Crowley.
Well, I'm going to respond to that. That's why we do strategic planning. You are in charge of doing strategic planning. You build the framework. Then you take all of our input and you put it together and you go, okay, here's our plan. These are kind of what is important. These are our marching orders, and based off that, we build a budget. That budget is also the plan. So we're not just sticking it to people. The way it was worded is unfair to us. And I'm not okay with that, because a lot of the things that I can tell you that I am not okay with are things that are on our plan that haven't been addressed. And we've talked about a lot of those. I mean, you get into communication, get into all this stuff, and we're dealing with things that need to get done. Do we need to re-identify an order? In my mind, I think this gentleman's smart enough and he's high paid enough that he can and should be able to do that. All I see is another strategic plan based off that. But, you know, I'm not okay with comments saying that we up here are killing people and all that stuff. I mean, I'm going to be very transparent. This is a job that you signed up for. You're not stuck with it. If there's something going on at home, if it's that bad, you know, this is optional. Just like Robbie. Robbie's saying we're wasting his time. Then what are you doing in the room? If things are so bad, then what are you doing in the room? And so I'm not going to have that type of, you know, back and forth about things that are, like, we built this plan, we prioritized everything, we've done all that. And there is some heartburn about the fact that some of those things aren't getting done. That's all I got.
I agree, and I concur to a great extent, but then by the same token, I'll go back to what I said before. We have the strategic plan. I think to a great extent we're following it. There are some deviations from it that I think requires some improvement. I'll say a lot of improvements, but by the same token, these priorities have changed as a result of the last two hurricanes. And I mean, there's no way that we can deny the fact that a lot of what we were doing in the trail that we were going down didn't get changed. It got changed significantly. The fact that we have individuals coming in here addressing the same thing that is related to the hurricanes for 2.5 hours per meeting is a testament to the fact that a lot of them are related to the hurricanes. We got sidetracked in a number of areas because of the hurricanes. A lot of folks' lives got distracted. But I think that we can use this all as a learning experience and also to build on and just move from here. And I think that's what we're trying to do here tonight. And I think we've given Mr. Whitson enough direction at this point that he can probably use that. We've use some examples from Commissioner Sherman and all of us, and that's what the workshop is all about. You know, I don't like the fact that people walk out here and say we're wasting their time, because that's what this is all about. This is a workshop.
Yeah, that's the entire purpose of the meeting.
that's the purpose of the meeting, is to come up with some solutions for some of the issues that we have that we put on this, in this workshop here. I mean, would I rather be sitting home watching something with a glass of wine? Yes, but this is my obligation right now, is to do this. So that's what we're doing. So I think using the project tracker that the mayor's talking about, some of the direction we've given Mr. Whitson, and then also I think it's very important that we consider some of the suggestions that our city attorney just gave us based on the guidelines that's been used in other agencies. I think it is unfair to the community, to the citizens, to us, to try to have every single question answered that night or that particular instance. It's not fair to the individuals that's asking the question. It's not fair to us, because we try to address it, and I think that, you know, Drew said it well. The worst thing you can do is to give an answer that's not correct. You know,
and what's important to one person is not important to someone else. Robbie's been sitting here, I didn't know this, has been sitting here waiting to find out what the cost of Pal Parker was. Did anybody know that that was important to him? No. All he had to do was call somebody up and ask.
I think Mr. Whitson probably knows.
Or if he didn't know today, you'd say, I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Okay.
It's just priorities to different people.
Well, it would have been on the project tracker. It's this one here. It is there, $530,000. The bonus is the project tracker is not this tiny. You can see it. Because I left my magnifying glass at home today.
Sure. Okay, I think we've made a lot of progress here, and I really appreciate everyone's comments. And
so we're leaving it that you're going to group things together and put things underneath each category. Okay. And you're going to do the project tracker.
Well, I don't have the licensing. I gave it all. It's literally, you take this Excel document and you drop it in, and it imports very easily.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, commissioners?
Can we take a break, please?
Can you take a break for about 7 minutes?
It's almost 3 hours.
Is it really?
Yes.
I guess it is. Okay, let's be back according to that clock's 8 o'clock. We'll take a break.
That wine.
coming back from the break. Mr. Cooley.
Well, there's a member of the public that just asked a question that I think we as a group should probably address. And since we are using the app as kind of the barometer for communication, the question was, how is the app's success going to be measured? And I think we probably need to, or maybe this is a question that we'll need to, we'll need some follow-up because there might be some technical pieces of it. But I think we need to define, if that's going to be the barometer, how is this success going to be measured?
Could we use the survey?
I would have said by how many people have downloaded the app, the same way that regular apps interface see their usage and by.
There's metadata that shows how many people are watching the YouTube, in and out, website count, and
easy to
same
measure.
thing with the app.
Okay.
Okay, so then the answer would be there will be follow-up reporting based off the metadata and activity. Would kind of be the nutshell version of that, right? Is that fair to say?
I think so. I mean, I think that would be a good measure. How many people have downloaded it? I don't know if it would be able to track how much use you have on it, but I can for sure tell you that we would be able to figure out how many downloaded it.
I think that would be a nice thing, just to simple to add it into the report. Not necessarily something to be discussed, but we could find the trend of how when it was released up, and then we'll see it flatline eventually. And it's just something that we can review in the agenda packet.
Yeah, and probably just have a basic number of downloads and also active users, and probably that's it.
So that's going to all go under one, unless there's almost like a clickbait, where every time that there's an interface where they click on a different department or they receive a notification and take the notification to open up the program, that might be a way that they measure. It just depends. There's like 4 different analytics of it that we can check, and that's just on basic app build out.
So hopefully that answered that.
Okay. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next item?
Sure.
Yeah, well, just 2-second thing. So in addition to number 5 paper, it's not number, the thing that had like the last minute ads, one of the things towards the bottom was Cameron condition water lines and Cameron condition sewer lines. And I believe when we had the discussion, we agreed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it was too much to do both freshwater and sewer, that we were going to focus on drainage related issues and start with sewer first to make sure that addresses drainage, because water lines is a totally separate animal on incoming. And so if I guess we could provide clarity, because I know drainage is a priority, and I worry that we would be biting off too much if we try to do incoming and outgoing water.
So which is more deteriorated than the other at this point? Which is failing more?
That's why I want to camera them.
Okay.
My concern here is you have all this federal money flowing. Unless you can state your case and show this is why we need the funds, then you're not going to get any. And the only other option is to just keep raising rates and keep replacing pipes. And I couldn't tell you right now which is in worse shape. I know that I keep the water line in my office, just as a constant reminder. If you've been in my office, you'll see that one. And I'm just concerned that because it's under the ground, you can't see it. I don't know what shape it's in. So that's why I was hoping we could get some movement in the future, because it'll be a process to camera these things, because without that data, I don't know if a quarter or 30% of the system has big holes in it, like what's sitting in my office, or if it's less than that or more than that. I just don't know. And I just know that in this last hurricanes, we just had tremendous I&I. I mean, at the wastewater plant, the gauge our normal flows at around 600 to 650,000 a day. The gauge stopped measuring at 2 million.
So
and that's just on the sewer side. On the water side, I know that's one of the reasons we're doing the metering project, because we're trying to identify the water loss and all like that. And that's going to be an issue that's going to be facing us too, because believe me, St. John's is going to take a look at what kind of water you want in the consumptive use permit that will be coming up in the future. So you need to have data to figure out where you are and where the repair money needs to go.
So if you were to ask your department heads at this point, and we said, okay, we're ready to make a decision tonight. You got to pick one. Did you have more sewer line explosions, or did you have water line explosions or leaks? And I guess I'm trying to narrow it down to say, if we had to pick one, which one would you say is actually
If you ask me, it would be the wastewater.
Okay.
But we did have leaks on the water side too, in fairness. And in fact, we had some businesses that were shut down earlier this year because of water leaks. So.
But if we look at the sewer lines, which is wastewater, which is going into...
It's moving it from the from the home to the lift station, and from the lift stations to the treatment plant.
Okay. So we're putting in a new wastewater treatment plant. I mean, that's coming up.
Correct.
So is it wise, or would it be prudent to say, okay, since we're going to put in a new wastewater treatment plant, then maybe we should focus on the wastewater pipes and just replace the whole system? Could we get by with that? I mean,
yeah, it'll be
I guess I'm trying to say, we're going to camera one. Would we camera that one first, or what?
The only thing that I would suggest would be the sewer lines, we'll call it drainage, right? Okay. So, because sewer lines is more than just sewer lines. It's also, you got a camera, you got these other things where the shark, whatever stuff goes and all that. I would say that affects citizens a lot more. So that would be, we can at least identify that as a priority over the freshwater incoming, which is also a priority. But if you were to pick one, like, you do the sewer first, get that done, get the list together of the priorities, because we even talked about pulling from reserves as a potential possibility because it's so dire. And then you would immediately go back in. Then you do the freshwater.
I mean, if we have major leaks or something like that from the wastewater, that has a lot of implications to include DEP fines and all. Whereas,
yes, and by the way, they're going to be fining us. We just don't know how much yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For the
now, what we're going to be doing, for the plant and for some of the lift stations, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be negotiating with them to allow us to put the money we would pay them, just a penalty or a fee or a fine, put it back into the system and agree on what that would be. So that's what the staff and I are working on.
Okay.
And so it sounds like that whole initiative of making it a high priority, even so much that you would potentially pull reserves to get that done, is part of remediation, which is to mitigate those fines, correct? Yeah, I mean, but again, it depends on how you look at the system. You have the loan to take care of the wastewater plant. We have ARPA money to take care of some of the most critical lift stations, and we've already targeted those. Then there's going to be a delta or a gap between the amount of money needed to do the rest of it, and that's the part that needs to be figured out how it would be paid for. But it begins with, in my opinion, doing some more camera work so we know how bad it is.
Were there any lift stations or wastewater pipes and all that you just mentioned to the fact that some businesses were affected by the hurricane?
Yes, there was, but there was some water. What I was talking about, the businesses, was the water lines going out.
Okay, I'm just where I'm going here is that the meeting I went to today, and they had several agencies there. There's a possibility that some of the infrastructure could be funded through some of the grant programs they have if the businesses or the economic initiatives themselves were affected by, as a
Exactly, it's
result of those
jobs and
kinds of
job
things.
loss, and I'm
Right.
trying to tie that to the status of the infrastructure.
Okay,
So that's
you see where I'm
exactly
going with
correct.
this then?
Exactly.
Okay, so if we can zero in on some of that, we might be able to identify some grants.
Yes, and it
you know.
just, what I'm saying is, I got to spend a little money to be able to find out the data of how bad it is, so I can talk to those agencies about, hey, if you have continual business interruption, that means the loss of tourism dollars, it means the loss of jobs, and those kinds of things. You got to be able to make that story connect.
And I guess the point I'm making also is that if we had, you know, I'm not going to identify any particular businesses at this point, but if there were some businesses that actually were shut down during the hurricanes themselves and lost they lost revenue and were closed because of that, we need to identify who they are so that we can use that as part of our basis for applying for some of those grants as well. Okay. We ready for the next item, or we have more discussion on that one?
I thought we were done before.
We did, but there was a lingering question down here.
Well, done for today.
Okay, the next item we have is a discussion, let's see, we go back up to commissioner comments. And we can pick up with,
It's cool. I'm just waiting till next meeting. I gotta get home. Sorry. I mean, I know we've been waiting, but I can wait a week.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Well, I did, but I think after tonight, I just don't think there's much more that can be accomplished. I think we're at a point.
I'll go for that.
Okay, can we talk about Marina Bay golf carts, though? Because Matt, can we do one thing, please? Sure. I'll make it quick. Matt and Lee went out and visited Marina Bay on January 5th regarding the golf cart access and the access that the homeowners association wanted. It's just not going to work. So because of flooding issues, there potentially could be flooding issues. There's a access sidewalk that leads out onto South Central Avenue that we could pave for them in order to give them golf cart access. So I just kind of wanted to take a pulse of the group. What?
You got my vote.
Okay. Man, that was easy. Here, I'm going to talk. I'm actually, okay. Great, because Matt believes that we can do it for very cost effective to give them their access. We do have to contact with, so who would have to work with the HOA?
Well, we just need to make sure it's clear where they want the improvement, and it is public right away.
Right.
And if we've identified all that,
We have identified
My
that it's city
understanding
right
is
away by
it's
their handicap
kind of a
area.
small concrete job.
Yeah.
So I would just have Public Works go out and do an estimate and get a quote.
Okay. Let's go for it.
I'll get out there with
Okay,
tamping.
good. That's going to make the
runs,
people at
cold patch.
Marina Bay very, very, very happy.
I'll be quick and then we can get out. This is just pretty exciting because I attended the Hurricane Federal Interagency Resource Exchange, excuse me, fire meeting this morning, and they had a lot of different agencies there to include FEMA, SBA, DEP, I mean, all the agencies there. And Flagler County, Putnam, St. Johns County, and other stakeholders were there. Mr. Bellhammer was there as well. And we also had Matt from our fire, police chief was there, and we had two members from the Economic Development Task Force that were there. And just very briefly, Flagler Beach kind of took over the whole meeting. I mean, a lot of discussion was centered around what happened in Flagler Beach, as well as in Flagler County. So Flagler County and Flagler Beach highlighted some of the, because they wanted to know what happened, what economic initiatives or what economic development impact did it have as far as losing business and that kind of thing there. So we rocked, and we were told what was going on. They also included and started talking about the A1A byway and indicating that there were a lot of things that they could do there for the counties to join forces so that they can basically be more powerful as far as having them all united. So St. Augustine was there in St. Johns County, but I'll brief you a little bit more in detail when I finally go over all of my notes here, but it was very, very, very good. They got our names, got our emails, and they want to stress the economic development parts of it. As far as come to us, let us know what you have. If we don't do it, if we can't do it, we're going to join forces with someone else in order to help you. One of the things Matt whispered in my ear, he says, Ken, what about Central Avenue? So we mentioned that. I says, Central Avenue has had a great impact because of all the trucks, because A1A was shut down. So they said, get with us. If you can see that there was an economic impact as far as driving up Central Avenue because people had to access it because they couldn't get to their businesses, we might be able to do something there also. Just tied to economic development.
I've been through this movie before.
Good.
And here's the deal. If you can show them a problem caused by the storm, and you can link that problem to job creation and sustainability, then you got yourself a winning project, and EDA is amazing. But you got to make that story walk and talk and have the data to back it up. And then they have a pretty elaborate committee process they go through, and you have to fill out their forms and put it in the system and all this. But if we have the Regional Planning Commission, offering to assist us, that should be a piece of cake. We just got to feed them the right information.
They said, tell us what you need. We'll be right there to help you out. So
I just
that's
have
good positive
a question. I sat through a webinar today that was led by the Florida League of Mayors and the Florida League of Cities, and it was about the bipartisan infrastructure law. This money that you heard about today, is that part of that, or is that separate?
It's the money today that we heard about was from the state of Florida. It's a government. It's the legislative. Came from the special session they had a few weeks ago. So it's separate from what you heard about. But another reason why I wanted to get some of the camera work done on the infrastructure is because we got to be able to make our case and meet the criteria. And get shown.
All the webinars I've sat through on grants and whatever, they always, you got to have a plan or a specific plan. So that's a separate pot of money then. Okay, thank you. I'll talk more about the other stuff.
I just had one thing, a reminder, the county budget request, we submitted it this week last year. I do not want to miss it. It is...
Mayor, I have some good news for you.
Go ahead.
I had lunch with Heidi, all my other counterparts, and Heidi said, just send me an email, and we talked about what the email needed to say, so it's all good.
Okay, that's all we did last year, but I just,
I
things get crazy.
I had a letter for you last year, but this year it'll be even easier, so.
Well, they are hurting for money because I was at the TDC meeting yesterday, and they used hijack. It was legal, but they're taking some of our money in order to help fund some of the other projects they have and to borrow it to come back. So
I do just have one thing. I have a TPO meeting on Wednesday, and I wanted to put something on everybody's radar that is on the long-term plan. It doesn't have it's going to have ramifications on us in the future. It's on the long-term plan to make State Road 100 a 6-lane road from Old Kings going west.
Knew that was coming.
So it's on. I just wanted to put that on it's out there for public record, but just in case any constituents or anything reach out to you, I don't know how many people.
It's from Old Kings. I thought
it's from Old Kings.
Older.
Yeah, it's going to go. They're going to go west. Yeah, it's not coming east yet, but just So it is something that.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you guys on Thursday, but I just wanted to let you guys know it looks like it's about 2031 they're looking at, but it's on their list of projects. So a lot of, just something to
And
flag.
before I forget.
Yeah.
I don't know when your next TPO.
Wednesday, this coming Wednesday.
Okay. Lambert Avenue sidewalk was on their list.
Okay.
Eons ago.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to it. Also, I know we're going to talk about having a paving plan for the city, but if there's something the TPO can do about that, too. Just.
They can make those roads. 5,000 homes coming between.
Well, and that's what I was also going to mention is that
a lot of houses.
Is that that if we can get that on their plan, because their focus is going to be on the state roads. So our two main arteries, 100 and A1A. So that was just a couple things I wanted to bring to you guys' attention. Flagler County is on, that's that's
I
on the
know
radar.
their focus is on the state roads, but we
Yeah.
have needs.
No, there's some grant seasons in right now, and we have till the 28th, and, you know, I was going to follow up with Mr. Whitson on that
You're
too.
going to bring that back to us,
Yeah, well,
approval?
I wish. Well, you know, I think it's our time to get one there, because I think they've had a lot of turnover with the elections in Volusia, so there's a lot of new faces that'll be on the TPO this next go-around. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how many, you know, continuity of operation plans were in place, maybe to secure some of those grants, so.
Mr. Whitson, any final thoughts?
A1A strike team meeting, listening session, January 24, Santa Maria Del Mar. So if you wouldn't mind
Yep.
dropping by.
It's in the calendar.
All right.
True? Commissioners, motion?
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you, folks. Thank you.